pin our hopes to the ground, but we can work it out. 'Cause giving in is oh so hard, but love is at stake. Where there's a will, there's a way. Now if we only knew how, learning to love, learning to laugh and fear, learning to fight through these years that bring us closer together, learning to love, learning the first golden rule, knowing that anything is possible. 'Cause nothing's gonna keep us from, nothing's gonna keep us from learning the ropes.
Greetings and salutations, everybody! I swear every time I hear this SummerSlam thing, I gotta do my Vince McMahon voice. I'm Xlj the Og. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a very special Learning the Ropes. Tonight, we are kicking off our SummerSlam series. That's right. We're doing a deep dive on the history of SummerSlam. And boy, oh boy, we're going to be doing not the next 1, 2, but 3 episodes. So this is going to be an awesome episode. We've got an all-star panel assembled, and I cannot wait to get into talking some SummerSlam. But, as always here on Learning the Ropes, we got to start off right with a little bit of a plug-a-palooza, if you will. So, let's first and foremost talk about Cole TV this week. We've been pretty busy. We have gotten a lot of shows. There's been a show out every day of the week so far. So, if you haven't done so already, check out some replays of stuff we got. Of course, Pro Wrestling 60 aired this past Monday. Tuesday was a brand new episode of our show, The Hunt, where I checked out Dee's antique toys or vintage toys, which was pretty dope. So check that out. Also, we got a brand new episode of I'm Your Huckleberry, where we are talking about, or where we try, I should say, Rocket Fizz Sodas Part 2, which was brutal, but nonetheless, that's what's all on Cole TV right now. And hey, by the way, tune in tomorrow because we've got a very special 3-part report coming to you on Stardom by our good close personal friend Light Skin Gaijin, which it is getting ready for the 5-star Grand Prix tournaments coming up. He does a phenomenal job. I'm so excited for everybody to see this because this series is awesome. It's going to do a deep dive, tell you everything you know about the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix. It is awesome. But let's get right into it tonight. We are talking the history of SummerSlam, and we are kicking it off here. Of course, we're starting off with the early years. So we got us an all-star lineup. So let's just start bringing y'all in. First and foremost, you know him, you love him. He's the Wrestle Talk Drip God himself, one Hambone. How you doing, brother?
What is up, all you fucking marks? XOJ, a pleasure to be back.
It's always a pleasure to have you on with us.
Nothing but pleasure when it's you and I.
The drip you got going on, it's pretty, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty sexy AF. That Macho Man shirt, them glasses, the WWF hat. I can appreciate that. Just saying. Also join us tonight. You know him, you love him. He is the man. He is the Devastator himself. Derrick, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Oh, we're doing awesome, man. We are ready to do this deep dive on the history that is SummerSlam. And we got
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah, baby. And one more guest join us here right off the bat. It's been a minute since he's been on Learning the Ropes, but we are so happy to have him on. Let's bring him on. Mr. MWO. My wrestling opinion. How you doing, brother? Oh, you are muted.
It's because I was coughing. What's up, everybody? That's I'm new to the podcast scene, right? I'm just learning. So nice to see you guys.
Good to see you.
What's up, everybody?
Beautiful smiling face.
Yeah.
It's been a minute, man.
It has. Thank you. I'm glad you wanted me back. That's impressive. I think I was just invited because B-Roll's not here, so he was like, he didn't want me on, so just you, I guess.
We may have some surprise run-ins tonight. I know we got at least one coming here in just a little bit. But,
all right.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome show. And guys, let's talk about it. It's the biggest party of the summer, as they've called it in the past. SummerSlam is upon us. It's always, I don't know, there's something always special about SummerSlam to me. I always felt like, as a kid, like it lived up to the hype in my mind as like truly like the second biggest show outside of WrestleMania. So before we get too deep here, I kind of want to talk about that briefly. Do you guys truly still believe that SummerSlam is the #2 show behind WrestleMania?
For me personally, I would probably say the Rumble.
Rumble. I had a
Because
feeling.
I think that the Rumble is more important to overall storylines than SummerSlam is.
Yeah, that's fair. Derrick, what about you?
I think it's like the Four Seasons. You have winter, you got the Royal Rumbles in January. Then you got the SummerSlam being this usually be in the summer, and then you have Survivor Series. They usually be like in the fall, and of course WrestleMania in the spring. So really, you got all your bases for all seasons covered. So really, to me, that's how I see it.
There you go. MWO, what about you, my friend?
I'm not going to disagree with the Rumble. I think the Rumble's more important, but I do think SummerSlam's still the second biggest show. I think it's that attraction. I mean, I live in LA and California, and it was here like 6-7 years in a row. I went to most of them. It always felt like a main event that's worthy of WrestleMania. They always had big main events and such. So and it feels like that right now. We're probably going to get Jey Uso and Roman. So, I mean, it's still big stuff that goes on at SummerSlam. So, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with Rumble, though.
Yeah. I mean, the Rumble is up there, and I think, it's always been, we've always talked the Big Four, and I do think interchangeable there. Here lately, it seems like Money in the Bank's kind of, been in the talks there is with the Big Four, kind of slightly replacing, Survivor Series, kind of, because I feel like Survivor Series has just kind of been, although last year's Survivor Series was great, don't get me wrong, so.
Right.
But as always, I'm a stickler for the origins, and we got to talk about where it very first started with SummerSlam. So let's just get right into it, fellas. Let's talk about the very first SummerSlam, SummerSlam 1988. Now, this is what I find most fascinating about this SummerSlam. A lot of people don't realize this. If you're a longtime fan, you do. But believe it or not, the original idea behind SummerSlam 88 is that Vince McMahon wanted to bring in, of all people, the Nature Boy Ric Flair to wrestle the Macho Man in like a champion versus champion style matchup. Holy shit, 1988, could you imagine if that's what the main event was instead of what we got?
Man, yeah, that would have been dope for sure.
But of course, Flair was no, I don't want to do that to the Crockett's. They've been too good to me, so thus we ended up getting the main event for this SummerSlam, the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks.
Mega Bucks, yep.
Which, I mean, as a kid, it was kind of cool because it was really the first time I can recall, on television, seeing the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan truly finally team up, and they hyped the shit out of that, dude.
Well, let's talk about what really mattered in that main event, which was
go for it, yeah.
Miss Elizabeth taking off her skirt.
She took off her dress.
Absolutely.
She took off her dress. This superstar Billy Graham on the cover.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yes, that was a classic right there. Yes, sir.
What's going on down there now? Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was just it was quite the scene, man. Because I mean, they just didn't do shit like that, And it's not
that was the most risque thing you had seen in WWF at the time. You'd never seen anything like that happen in wrestling before. So
yeah,
sorry about it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And usually you don't see that from Elizabeth because she used to be so elegant with her dresses and stuff like that. When she pulled off and got that short, skimpy stuff, I'm like, really? I'm like, wow. It just kind of just unexpected.
Damn, girl. I ain't mad at it. No. Yeah, it was like I say, man, it was quite the scene. That moment, oh man, etched in my mind. But just the
that it is.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, the rest of the card is great too. But I just remember the whole scenario with DiBiase and Andre, and of course we all remember Andre being hired by DiBiase to purchase the WWF Championship, you know, and then led up to the tournament at WrestleMania 4. So I don't like I say the main event itself, like as a tag match with all the right elements in this, like it was a pretty grandiose main event. In my opinion, it's pretty good for a first SummerSlam's main event. But I gotta admit, Flair against Macho Man would have been a little bit more exciting. But you know, and we're going to talk about this tonight too. SummerSlam's chocked full of like moments in time, history, moments where like stars finally like to get their first truly big moment, like kind of sent off to the rocket sphere, if you will. And the first one of those comes to mind. We got to talk about the Ultimate Warrior. Because, I mean, the Warrior winning his first, there you go, Warrior winning his first Intercontinental Championship and ending the longest reign still to this day of the Honky Tonk Man. Now,
and in 31 seconds.
Yeah.
31 seconds, yes.
Because nobody knew, like, what was happening, like, on that in that matchup. Because you got to keep in mind, folks, originally, Warrior was not advertised. This actually was originally supposed to be an Intercontinental title match with Honky Tonk and Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who'd been feuding at the time.
Yes.
But I can't, you'll have to forgive me, I can't remember what happened there exactly. Either Beefcake got hurt or Beefcake, like, failed a drug test or something, but he couldn't.
Yeah, something like that.
They had to pull him.
Like
So ultimately, we get the Ultimate Warrior, and like, yeah, he literally, like in Ultimate Warrior fashion, comes out, like does run off the ropes, does his shit, like beats him in 30 seconds. Like, let me ask you guys a question here about this moment. Like, how important of a moment is this for like Warrior, like for this to happen to him, and like for him to literally just like them to realize, okay, this is our next huge star, is the Ultimate Warrior.
Want me to start? I'll start.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll start with you.
Time. Let's go. So I was a huge like Hulk Hogan fan growing up. Like he was minus Shawn Michaels until he got once he, you know, threw Jannetty through the glass. I was a Hogan fan to death, and so that means I was anti-Warrior, obviously, because you know you always got to have, it's like Coke or Pepsi, or you know, you got to like one or the other. So no offense to Derrick, I respect Warrior now.
So good, but so good.
Yeah, but then you know WrestleMania 6, I bawled like a baby. So I was 7 when this happened. So I was extremely excited to see Hogan in the main event. Extremely excited and didn't know what to do when Miss Elizabeth's dress was ripped off and we saw underwear. I remember being 7, like, what's happening? I feel weird, but it's but seeing Warrior come out, it even still got me jazzed. It was just, you know, we learned that that's kind of what he started to do in the end. And how big of a moment was it for him? I think it was supposed to be a huge moment, but I think eventually we find out in the future that it turned out not so much to be, because, you know, what led to WrestleMania 6 and him losing his title. But at that time, that was huge, man. Honky Tonk Man was a big deal. Him coming out and beating him in 31 seconds, I think Vince had something in plan for that. And I think he wanted that to be his next, like, he's going to come out, beat this reign, 31 seconds. This is the guy. He's going to beat Hogan. He's going to beat everyone in the future. This is my, like, new dude. And, you know, at that time, it was huge. Even I was, like I said, Jack Ford. I wasn't a Warrior fan. So,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hambone, what about you? What are your thoughts on the Warriors' big win here at SummerSlam 88?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with MWO. You know, I am not a Hogan guy, never have been. I wasn't really huge on Warrior either. I mean, let's be honest, you know, in 1988, I'm only 1 year old. So all of this stuff, you know.
Just a little bone.
Yeah, just a little bone. But you know, when I became a wrestling fan around 94, I went back and watched all this stuff. So I've seen all of it. But I definitely think that, you know, it's a big deal to go out and beat somebody in 31 seconds. But it's an even bigger deal to go out and beat somebody who has the longest reign of a title. You know, it's definitely the stamp from WWE that, hey, this is going to be our next guy, either after Hogan or with Hogan. So,
yeah. Yeah. Now, the rest of the card, it's kind of felt kind of more like just a basic, you know, regular card. But there's one more match I kind of want to point out.
I went through the years that we were going to go through, and it feels like for, you know, probably the first 8 to 10 years, it's just random matches with moments, like you said. Yeah. Especially in these early years, we're just getting a lot of random matches just to get people on the card.
Right.
That's exactly right. You know what? The one thing that pissed me off the most about this show, you had an amazing rivalry going on between Rick Rude and Jake the Snake, and yet
Oh,
you did not
man,
have
yes.
that match on the card. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you thinking, WWF?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, that writes itself, man. We all remember, like, us longtime fans remember fucking, you know, Rick Rude wearing the Cheryl Roberts, like, trunks, you know. And
Ooh,
that
yes.
was a great rivalry. I mean, that should have they should have had a match at SummerSlam. But yet
Absolutely.
we get Rick Rude against JYD, which no disrespect to the JYD, love Junkyard Dog, but and then you get Jake the Snake against Hercules. It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. But the one match I do want to note on this show that is definitely worth a watch, and it's the very first match in SummerSlam history. You have a tag team encounter between the Fabulous Rougeau brothers and the British Bulldogs.
Bulldogs.
It was a
Yes.
solid matchup, man.
Great,
And
solid. Yes.
Great chemistry with those teams, and man, they had some heat back in the day as well. No pun intended. But the first SummerSlam, though, I mean, it was all about that main event, though. But still, I mean, the first one was a fun one. I mean, I just remember watching it as a kid, not so much live. Like, I'm like Hambone. I'm a little bit older than you, but I mean, I was a little kid to where, like, I couldn't really process that till a couple years later. But fast forward to 1 year later, and let's talk about SummerSlam 89, which to me kind of felt like, okay, let's try to repeat last year's, but it kind of fell on deaf ears. At least the main event did, because
Oh, yeah.
you get a tag team match once again. Only this time the Mega Powers are on opposite sides, as you get Hulk Hogan teaming up with Brutus the Barber Beefcake to go up against the Macho Man and Zeus. Oh dear God! Yes, we are talking about that time frame. Oh man! Now, for those of you who don't know, Zeus was the bad guy played by the late great Tommy Tiny Lister in No Holds Barred, which came out in 1989. So it's kind of a tie-in to the No Holds Barred movie. And Jesus Christ, no disrespect to Zeus, but God, was he green as fuck. Like, I mean, he could not do a whole hell of a lot. It was just kind of like stand there.
Man.
Like, that was it. This was it, folks. And then, boom, do the, like, double, like, arm, like, smash, whatever you want to call it. That was it.
Yeah.
Macho Man, God bless him. If it wasn't for the Macho Man in this matchup, he carried that fucking match. Poor Randy
sure did.
Savage. Like, could you imagine it's like, okay, you're going to be in the main event, and you're going to have Zeus, or it's like you're going against Hogan, and you're going against Beefcake. Oh, and by the way, your partner is Zeus. Like, fuck, what the fuck you say? The fuck you say? Poor Macho Man. But guys,
I know.
do you have any comments you want to talk about on this great main event?
I think this main event was really just following up on, you know, what happened the year before, you know. We had the Mega Powers in the main event the year before, but they were, you know, really teasing them going their separate ways and all the different stuff with Elizabeth and Hogan maybe being a little too friendly towards her. So this is definitely just a follow-up to the aftermath of SummerSlam 88.
Yeah, because Elizabeth was in Beefcake and Hogan's corner, and on the opposite side, let's give credit where credit's due, one sensational Sherry with the Macho Man.
And that's one of the things that sticks out to me about the match too. Is this is one of the very few times where you would see Hogan in this era, do something that was not very babyface. You know, you know, Sherry interfered a lot during the match, and then he actually used her loaded purse to get an advantage near the end there. But,
yeah, this is very true.
Debo.
MWO, what are your thoughts on this this matchup?
You know, this was a weird time because now I'm 8, right? So I'm still in the world of thinking wrestling is real, right? I think it's not scripted. You know, I'm passionate about it, and in a time where they weren't even allowed to like hang out with each other in like airports if they were rivals, and Owen and Brett had to like, you know, not even be brothers and miss Christmases together to keep, you know, kayfabe. And you have a guy from a movie all of a sudden feud with you in wrestling. I was so lost. It was the most confused. I remember watching this, like, what the? This guy was in a, like, are you supposed to make me think the movie's real? And this was the moment where I started realizing that wrestling was a scripted show. This is literally the time frame. I remember this vividly, that this was, other than Rick Rude killing it in his match against Warrior,
Yes.
this is like the moment I remember, like, holy cow, wrestling is not real. Right? Like, this is fake. Like, why are you having a character? And I thought that's a big thing on Vince. He's so against making people know that it's scripted to have this happen and to keep him in this character. But I mean, he was better as Debo. I love Debo, so I'm Debo for life. But
Respect
Zeus,
Debo.
yeah, it was. And remember, they had this match twice. So Debo and Macho Man teamed up again against Hogan, and I don't think Beefcake. I think it was Hogan and someone else, correct? But either way, they ended up wrestling again. So it's not the only time Zeus was.
Well, they tied it into. No, you're actually right. It was a rematch between the two. And
was it a rematch? Okay.
Tied it. They were trying to sell the pay-per-view because it was like no holds barred, the movie and the event. Yeah.
But his name's not even Hulk Hogan in the movie, so it's like super bizarre too.
Rip, brother.
Yeah. And, I mean, I watched it like 10 times as a kid, but it was just weird.
You know what though? If you know, this would have been a lot more enjoyable if maybe you have a moment where Beefcake somehow gets put down on the ground by Seuss or something, and Sherry comes in and says, "You just got knocked the fuck out." That would have made it slightly more enjoyable. I'm just saying. And you're talking about as a kid, like with movie characters and stuff, like showing up in wrestling. Like as a kid, I kind of was like, man, it would have been so much cooler if they got like somebody cooler, like the Terminator or like RoboCop. And wait a minute, 6 months later, Turner decides, fuck it, that's a great idea. Let's bring in RoboCop for a pay-per-view.
Oh, what a moment!
Wow, it was a moment for sure. Yes, it was.
But yeah, I want to touch back on something you said, MWO. Like the best match on this card by far was Warrior against Rick Rude for the IC title, and this, in my opinion, is the best matchup they ever had. I think this matchup from SummerSlam '89 is truly a hidden gem. It is a really good matchup.
He always brought the best out of Warrior by far. Rick
Rude did.
Always brought the best out of Warrior.
Oh yeah, they would have some great matches through the years, but this, like I say, this one to me I thought was the best one they had. I mean, Warrior was doing stuff out of his comfort zone, you could tell, but I mean he was doing good. Like very, very, very few guys could like get a good match out of Warrior, but Rick Rude is one of those guys. Also, too, I think we got to highlight. Remember, I think it's the interview. I can't remember if it's before or after with Rude, but where the sign falls down and there's that famous blooper. This is like BG's like, what the fuck?
I love BG. He all got us those crazy outtakes, like when he's doing those interviews, those promo interviews, and he'll always say something outlandish, and you'll be like, what the? You're like, it is so crazy. It's so funny. I just love the outtakes of Mean Gene. He always makes me laugh.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of these two matches, once again, this is just kind of like, okay, let's just get people put on the card, you know? I mean, there is some kind of cool stuff, like the Brainbusters against the Hart Foundation is a great matchup for the that was not for the tag team titles, even though the Brainbusters were the tag champs.
Their only SummerSlam appearance, because they both leave soon after. Until he gets fired, Arn goes back to WCW.
This is true. And then also you do get on this card a debut for WWF pay-per-view of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes as he goes up against the Honky Tonk Man.
Yes.
And another, speaking of other kind of debut / return, you also get the return of Superfly Jimmy Snuka on this show as he goes up against the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. But I mean, SummerSlam '89, it was, once again, it's just kind of one of those like, okay, let's just get people on the card. It was I don't know, it in my opinion, '89 not nearly as memorable as '88, but I don't know. There's something about '89 though that I do like. I just like there's a 6-man tag on there I really love with the Fabulous Rougeaus and Rick Martel against Tito Santana and the Rockers. It's actually a really good matchup.
Yeah,
solid
match.
All right, gentlemen, are you ready to fast forward? And now it's time. It's a new decade. Let's get into the '90s and let's talk about SummerSlam 1990. And There's some pretty good matches on this show. Like, there's one in particular. Like, matter of fact, let's just talk about the best match on the card by far. The Hart Foundation against Demolition in a 2 out of 3 falls matchup for the WWF Tag Team titles.
Yes.
And then the Hart Foundation was red hot at the time too, man. Like, and man, this matchup was epic. Because you got to keep in mind too, at the time, Demolition was kind of using that Freebird rule because not only was it Axe and Smash, but you also had Crush in there as well.
Crush in there too. Yes.
And Demolition were hot too, man. I mean, they were just running through
Great
people.
deal.
They were the #1 tag team. They were the champions. So
Yep.
it was a big deal for them to go down to the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, King John? What's up, Faith? How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you so much for joining us here on Learning the Ropes. But yeah, the cool thing I loved about this matchup, though, was that the fact that it was 2 out of 3 falls. So, oh, wait a minute. In classic wrestling fashion, I think we got a run-in. Let's bring him on in. First time ever on Learning the Ropes. Dad 316. What's up, brother?
And it's the bottom line, because Dad 316 said so.
How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Oh my God, I've been watching you guys. Hey, can someone answer me why Hambone, the Wrestle Talk drip god, is not wearing a SummerSlam shirt right now? I know you got SummerSlam gear, dude. Don't lie.
Oh,
This isn't good enough for you?
That's not.
I don't have a SummerSlam shirt. I'm sorry.
Oh man, how's it
he's
going?
saving it for SummerSlam, like when they're here in a couple weeks.
The actual.
How
Saving
dare-
it for the actual.
How
Yeah.
dare you criticize the drip god when it comes to fashion, sir?
Trust me, I'm definitely not the person to talk about anybody's fashion.
So I think you're all beautiful people. I'm just saying. But yeah, we were just talking about SummerSlam 90, and we were highlighting the 2 out of 3 falls match between Demolition and the Hart Foundation for the WWF Tag Team titles. So, but yeah, like you were saying, Hambo, like Demolition was just going through all the teams, man. I mean, there was really nobody left for them other than the Hart Foundation. And
Right.
also, too,
Yep.
keep in mind a Legion of Doom who had just gotten to the Federation, really.
Okay.
So, and they come in really and like help the Hart Foundation win this matchup, as they did win the matchup 2 falls to 1, and thus become the WWF Tag Team Champions. And in my opinion, this is also the start of the era. And you know, Hambone, I am a little bit biased, but this is the start of Bret Hart being the MVP of SummerSlam, because he has a tremendous run of SummerSlams after this.
Okay.
Well, I mean, as we said, you know, when we were getting into this show, he can be the MVP of SummerSlam because SummerSlam is the #2 show to Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels.
Boy, I just gave you a layup there. You're welcome.
You walked into that one.
Oh, Jordan is key for real.
Yeah, I see how it is, brother. But let's talk about this show and the double main event, because in your double main event, you get first. Let's talk about the WWF Championship matchup, which was a steel cage match
Yep.
between. Once again, we get a rematch here between the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude. Although this time it's under different circumstances because it's for the WWF title, and old Ravishing Rick's like cut off his beautiful long locks. Now he's got that shorter, like, but still, Rick Rude always looked like a beautiful badass of a man. Like Rick Rude was like literally definition of like all the women want to see him and all the men want to be a man. Like I loved fucking Rick Rude. He was so awesome.
Facts.
But this steel cage match is it's not as good as their match at 89, I don't think. But I mean, it's still
quicker.
it's definitely quicker. Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Guys, what would you say about this matchup between the Warrior and Rude inside the steel cage? Like, would you recommend it to people, or are you just kind of like, it's there?
This is personally my favorite match between the two. I really like the whole steel cage element. I think it really lended to, you know, Warrior not being as good as Rick Rude a little bit more. So for me, this is my favorite match between the two.
That's interesting, but it's not a bad, like, trust me, it's not a bad match. It is a fun matchup. Dad 316, what about you, buddy?
You know, it's not even just the match in general. I have a hard time just not even recommending SummerSlam in general. Like, I don't know, it's just something about it, the vibe. I have a vibe every year when SummerSlam comes. It's that party, man. And so anytime you can see a steel cage match at SummerSlam, it doesn't matter who's in it. But you're talking Rick Rude, you're talking the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, what else could you ask for?
This is true. It definitely made more sense and would have been more watchable for them to be in this matchup than the other part of the double main event. Because in our other part of our double main event, we get Hulk Hogan against Earthquake. A young 26-year-old, but he looks like he's 50 Earthquake. God, I love the Earthquake. I don't care.
Earthquake has looked 40 since he was 20.
He never aged, but he was always
never
old.
aged.
Yep, he was always
Never.
old. Yep.
It took
He
Vince
just looks
McMahon.
like you know, a dad who probably works for, you know, like the DPW or something of his local city, you know, and he's looked that way for 50 years.
There you go. There you go, brother. It took Vince McMahon almost 10 years for him to realize, oh, God, this guy's fucking ugly. Let's put him in a mask. Thus, Golga was born. Anyway.
You know what?
There you go.
We can't market that face. Put a mask on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So the storyline build up to this was like Earthquake had taken out Hulk Hogan. He had put him out on the shelf. But in reality, folks, he was filming Suburban Commando. But yeah, so they wrote off Hogan TV pretty much for like half a year. Brought him back just in time for SummerSlam to go into this matchup. Yeah, like Earthquake against Hogan, honestly, I love Earthquake, but I never gave two shits about them in the it was okay. It was there.
I preferred Earthquake in the Natural Disasters. I loved the Natural Disasters together. As a singles wrestler, I really wasn't into them, but I love the Natural Disasters.
Same here. I love Earthquake when he was with the Typhoon in the Natural Disaster. It's just something when Earthquake is by himself, when he's in a big event, it just don't seem like he's just there. It's just like, you know, so if it's anything like Zeus and like in '89, that's your equivalent.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I just want to really quick the three things you talked about. One, I just want to say Demolition. I get flack all the time. I think they're the greatest tag team of all time. I love Demolition.
Yes, I love Demolition.
The first SummerSlam we didn't talk about. I get made fun of all the time. They're a fake Legion of Doom, so on. Now, Demolition was the bee's knees, young kids. They were it. And I agree with Hambone. I think that I like the Warrior and Rick Rude match. I like every single match Warrior had with Rick Rude. I think Rick Rude is one of the greatest of all time. He gets no respect because he didn't win enough belts and he wasn't kind of like Razor Ramon and Scott Hall. But I just want to bring up with this one, I'm going to embarrass myself again because I was a huge Hulkamaniac as a kid. So when Earthquake squashed him, right, and Hogan was out, I cried for probably like a week straight, right? I was, 10 at this time. I wrote him a letter.
I was going to ask, did you write the letter?
You can write a letter. And about 2, 3, 4 weeks later, I remember my mom handing me a postcard. It was a postcard with Hogan on it. You flip it over, and it was like, obviously like printed on the. But he wrote you saying like, "Thank you so much for your well wishes," yada yada. I remember having that forever. It was like I really thought he wrote to me. It was a great moment. You just ruined it with me knowing that he was shooting Suburban Commando. Thanks a lot. But,
oh God!
I was
little Mark.
Oh gosh! You're about to spoil it.
Years, I thought he was injured. But here's the thing. So yeah, but Earthquake was kind of, I think, what they wanted with Yokozuna, right? I think they wanted what Earthquake is. Yokozuna came in and kind of did that job. He was squashing people, that big man who could do it, and he became a bigger name and a champ for a while. But man, I didn't have a problem with Earthquake and Hogan just because it felt so dang real to me. Even though I started thinking wrestling was fake when that happened, I was like, maybe it's real again. I was all over the place with wrestling. So
I can respect that, though. I mean, I think what they presented was great. To me, like, I guess what it boils down to, MWO, is like, I only liked Hogan for a brief period of time, and that was like the rock and wrestling like cartoon era.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and after that, I just I'm done.
Yes, great cartoon. Yes,
it is a great cartoon.
But people didn't disappear a lot back then. There wasn't a lot of injuries like that. You know what I mean? Like even you move up in the future. I mean, Shawn Michaels lost a smile. That's why he was gone, right? I mean, people didn't really get injured or hurt like that. You know, now they do, but they didn't back in those days. So it felt real. I don't know.
And people need to quit pretending like they didn't like Hulk Hogan back then.
Right? Because they don't like him now,
Quit
right?
pretending,
they all
dude.
hated Hogan. Yeah.
Quit pretending that you didn't
I
like Hogan back in the
always
day.
hated Hogan. I remember being a little mark, and even then I didn't like him because even as a kid, I was more a fan of heels. So I just hated Hogan's goody two-shoe shit. And then the older I got and the more I learned, the more I was like, this guy kind of sucks in the ring.
Well, yeah.
And he was a piece of shit, so I was right anyway the whole time.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Shawn turned me heel. Ever since Shawn, I was a heel fan.
That's right.
And it sucks because, like, after you learn, you know, now, you know, the kind of person Hogan was, and you're a kid, you're like, God damn, wasn't I just a little shit for liking Hulk Hogan? You know? Like, why do I feel guilty at 5 years old that I liked Hulk Hogan? Like, you know? My teacher should have taught me better. That's what should have happened.
Right.
Like, for me, it was just like, I didn't, like, I'm like Hambone. That's like, he's too goody two shoes. And then I also was like a macho man, more like anything against
me too.
King.
Yeah.
I
mean, Savage is on my Mount Rushmore, so you know, you were either Savage or Hogan then, and I was Savage.
Yeah, I agree with you, brother. Well, on the rest of the show, too, there's a couple of matches to point out with. One, a surprise title change for the Intercontinental Championship as Mr. Perfect dropped the belt to one the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich.
Yeah,
this is actually my favorite match of the show.
It's a good match. I mean, anything with
it's really good
at this time frame is awesome. But yeah, this match is really good. It's short, but it is so good. And like Kerry Von Erich, you know, just crazy to me thinking of like, you know, Vince once like allowing somebody, you know, who even though they were calling him the Texas Tornado, still everybody fucking knew it was Kerry Von Erich, the son of Fritz Von Erich, the famous Von Erich.
Yeah.
Well, I believe. Yeah. Oh wait, no. Well, it's not this one. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, so Kerry Von Erich won the title clean and held on to it for several months after the fact too, as well, which is like definitely his biggest moment in the WWF. The one other match I want to point out on this show that I really still love to go back and look to this day, even though it's a short one, but the Powers of Pain kicking it off against the Rockers. I always felt like SummerSlam, the thing was, we've talked about so far here, if you're noticing a trend, they always start off with a fucking awesome tag team match. And this is another one, too, like with the Powers of Pain, and they pretty much just destroy Shawn Michaels' D and kind of wrote him off TV for several months. But overall, I mean, SummerSlam 90, once again, it's
Hold
it's
on.
not...
Wait a
minute, we got one more? Oh,
there's
God,
one more match that we need to talk about.
Go ahead.
I forgot about this.
Go ahead.
Queen Sherry and Sapphire. Let's talk about it.
I forgot. I actually forgot about that. Yeah, because that was a hell of a story too. Because Sapphire, you know, doesn't show up, gets counted out. Next thing you know,
and I mean, she really was just a fan that
she was,
got brought in and hired by the WWF to be Dusty's sidekick. Crazy story.
I feel like with Dusty, they just fucked with him, and back then it's just like, okay. I bet, but Dusty was so fucking good. He could get anything over. It did not matter.
Of course, yes.
But I'm telling you, man, like what I loved about that is, dude, the freaking storyline where it comes to find out Sapphire was actually bought out by the $1 Million Man. Dusty was so good. He was so good. His reaction, like, I genuinely felt bad for Dusty. He was like, no, sweet Sapphire, no, sweet Sapphire.
That was spot on. That was good. That was spot on, man.
So
oh, my God.
I just was like, oh, God, Dusty, poor Dusty. That was a tremendous moment too, as well. I guess I was thinking like the moment I forgot about was just mainly for the stipulation. What about Jake the Snake against Bad News Brown? And in Jake's corner, you've got the Snake, of course, but in Bad News, New York Sewer Rats. That's right. That was the stick for this one, where they each have their critters in their corner. Man, like SummerSlam 90, it was a thing in time. But boys, I want to fast forward to what, in my opinion, is my probably favorite, if not second favorite SummerSlam of all time. I watched the shit out of this kid. SummerSlam 91. And I'll never forget, like I always, it's like embedded in my brain, the opening to this with Vince McMahon on the call. You hear that SummerSlam music, and it's just like, oh, nuptials turn to napalm as it's the match made in hell. So the build up for this was okay. So it was a double main event, if you want to call that. You had the match made in heaven and match made in hell. Now the match made in heaven was the wedding finally between the Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah.
But the match made in hell was Sergeant Slaughter, General Adon, and oh god, now I can't.
Colonel Mustafa.
Colonel Mustafa.
I want to say Sheik,
AKA the Iron
Sheik.
Sheik, yes.
Sheiky, baby.
Yeah.
Going up against Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Now,
Warrior,
the significance about this is
what happens after.
What happens after what happened before, because the Warrior pretty much threatened to walk out of the WWF unless he was paid a shitload of money.
Oh, yeah.
Vince McMahon pretty much is just like, okay, I got to give it to him. And of course, you know, Sheiky was all up in there like, I'll break that fucking jabroni's legs. I'll fucking do it. I'll fucking put him in the camel clutch. But yeah, it was like all the guys in that match wanted to kill the Warrior, even Hogan.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, not a great matchup.
And then Vince fires him as soon as he walks back through the curtain after the match.
Yeah,
yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, as soon as he gets back through that curtain, it's like, you're fired. And I can't blame him. I mean, I would have fucking done the same thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But not a great matchup, but the rest of the card to me is what's fun. Of course, Hambone, you know what my favorite match on this card.
Oh, I know. And it's the best match of the night. I do feel like, you know, a lot of these, especially during this time, you have the main events, but then you have something underneath it that really ends up being the actual star match of the show. Yes. And this is the one, Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect, man. It's the best match on the show.
That is a classic. A classic indeed. Yes.
All-time great.
MWO?
Yeah. MWO. Did you hear that?
Yeah, Mr. Perfect was in it. That's why.
No.
And he should have won. He should have won.
You need to quit your hate. Quit hating on the Hitman. Right, you heard that loud and clear.
I think I got it. I think we got this year's SummerSlam main event. Derek, you're going to be the Jesse Ventura. You're going to be the referee. We're going to have Hambone and MWO in one, the Sean thing. And then I'm teaming up with Dad 316 with the Brett guys.
Hey, I'm up for that. I'm up for that.
Hey, don't worry, XLJ. We'll make quick business of it. Don't worry about it.
You're damn right. But no, this matchup, serious though. Like, whether you love him or hate him, like this matchup was like, this is the first matchup that puts Bret Hart on the map and establishes him as a single star, as the next like big up and coming guy. And the fact that Kurt comes back and works this match, pretty much his back is fucked. Really shouldn't have been working, but he came back to work with Bret, put him over, and man, did he ever!
And what a fucking performance he put on too for somebody with a bad back.
Man, he did. He worked him very nicely. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a long match. Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's like the longest match on the card, I believe. Yeah, it goes 18:04 to be exact. But I mean, it's just a classic. That's something. This is one of those matches that's key to the lineage and the history of the Intercontinental title and what made it workhorse title.
Definitely.
I mean, this in my opinion, this is probably my. I don't know. I would say my second favorite, or maybe my favorite Intercontinental title match. It's up there. Like, there's so many good ones, but this is one of the first ones I instantly go to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Another matchup I want to talk about on this card. I just love the vignettes on this mainly, but we got to talk about the Jailhouse match. Big Boss Man and the
Mountie.
So now again, at this time, like this is what, 91. So I didn't start watching wrestling until about 93, 94. So again, as a kid, you know, I'm going to the video store every week and I'm renting a VHS of something that I haven't seen and, you know, teaching myself about this new thing that I love, pro wrestling. And I fucking loved this match as a kid. as a kid, this is just one of my favorite matches. It's just so fun to see it, to see Mountie get dragged back and fingerprinted, and,
Yes.
all that stuff. Oh my
You
god,
want
it's such
the
a fun
finger? Here's the finger. Loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
And the Mountie talked
It was funny.
such mad shit going into
Oh,
this
yeah.
matchup. You knew
Yes.
he was getting his ass beat.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, and that's what I remember. Like the match is great fun itself, but like just the aftermath with the Mountie being put in jail, and like even like not understanding like the clarification, like there's some adult jokes in there. Like when he gets put in the cell, and the guy comes over and he's like, "Don't you just love the way leather feels against your body?" Like I didn't truly understand what that was meaning, but yeah. Yeah, just that matchup is just so damn fun, honestly. And I always thought Mountie and Boss Man had once again great chemistry. They worked together, and as a kid too, my mind it just exploded. It's like, oh my god, it's the two cops going against each other. It's like, this is great.
Yeah.
Also on this card too, that's very noteworthy as well. The Legion of Doom winning their very first WWF tag team titles in a street fight
Nasty boy.
against one of the most
Nasty Boys.
underrated tag teams of all time in my
The
opinion.
Nasty Boys.
Nasty
Yes.
Boys.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think we
thought-
all agree on that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I thought the Nasties had a great run there, even though it was for like about 6 months or whatever it was. But like for LOD to get their first tag title wins, for it to be in Madison Square Garden as well. Oh man, that made perfect sense. And you got to keep in mind, back in the day, we talk about the stipulation, folks. They didn't do stuff like this in the WWF in this time frame. They never had like street fights or anything like that. And it doesn't get too crazy. I think the craziest thing they do is they got Jimmy Hart's like helmet thing and like was hitting each other with it. It wasn't like too like insane, but I was just. As much as I love the Nasties, I was a little doomer, so I was like happy to see the LOD win.
You know what though? I feel the same way about Legion of Doom too, though. Like I feel like they don't get enough credit either. Because I remember being a kid, man, and they were the monsters that were bigger than life to me as a tag team. When they came out with the spikes and all that, like just everything about them was so badass at that time. Completely different from what everybody else was doing. Both of those teams deserve a lot more credit than what they get.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Dude, as a kid, I seriously wanted those damn foam spikes. Like I was gotta get those foam spikes, man.
I got lucky. I got to meet Animal about 6 months before he passed, and he had his shoulder pads and spikes there, and he let everybody wear them for the photo. So I actually got to wear his shoulder pads in my photo.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank God Ahmed Johnson wasn't there. Otherwise, we would have stole the shit. But anyways.
Oh my God.
One last match I want to talk about on this one, too.
Dude, no one preps you for XLJ, I swear, man. Nobody prepped me for this shit. Nobody.
I'm on the fly, brother. There was one more title change on this show. The first time ever, the $1 Million Championship would change hands as Virgil defeated Ted DiBiase.
I'm glad you brought this one up, XLJ, because I think that this is a very underrated match because of the storyline behind it. But also,
was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I got a real hot take here. I really think that Virgil was fucking popular here, man. I really think that WWE dropped the ball with him afterwards. They just did nothing with him after this, and he was so popular because of this storyline with Ted DiBiase.
Way over.
Yeah.
Like MWO, I gotta ask you, buddy. Like, what did you think about like Virgil's like this story of with Virgil like getting his revenge against the $1 Million Man who abused him for so many years? Like as a kid, like were you invested to that?
I agree with Hambone. I 100% agree. This was like one of the coolest stories ever in this time. And just seeing him get the comeuppance because you didn't think he was going to win, right? Even though now I probably would have been an adult, a little bit more educated. But at that moment, I was like, oh man, he's going to get his butt beat again. $1 Million Man's going to walk out with the belt, and to see him win it, it was pretty cool. And it was sad to see him not continue it because I remember seeing him. I was a super big fan of Virgil. I really was. And now when you see those pictures of him with like the autographs and no one's in line, and he became Vincent in WCW, It's sad. It's sad because I agree, Hambone. If they would have used them correctly, and this is the key, right? If you're going to get pushed one way or the other, you know what I mean? You can become a star or you can't. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Absolutely.
And I mean,
sad.
I don't know. There was no reason not to. I mean, he was so popular. He was a good-looking dude. He was in great shape.
Yep.
He
Oh,
could
yeah.
work in the ring. Like he had everything besides a push after.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And let me
After
say
that.
this too. Can we just acknowledge this? That fucking entrance music slapped.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Virgil's,
theme,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But this SummerSlam, it's a loaded show. I mean, you also had a great 6-man to kick it off with the Warlord and Power and Glory against the British Bulldog and the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the Texas Tornado.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to bring up in the last one, XLJ. You talked about, Texas Tornado, and we know it's Kerry Von Erich, and then we go the next year where it's the Texas Tornado, the British Bulldog. They're not calling him Davey Boy anymore. He's the British Bulldog, and he's not Ricky the Dragon Steamboat anymore. He is
he's
just
the
the
Dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah.
We are fully in that era of WWE where we're just calling people ridiculous things at this point. They don't even have real names anymore.
That's great. Yeah.
Also, sidebar here. This is also the first pay-per-view appearance of one Erwin R. Shyster, IRS, as he goes one against Greg the Hammer Valentine. And this also, if I remember correctly, I think this is also technically the last on-screen pay-per-view appearance of Andre the Giant in the WWF. Because Andre is in the corner of the Bushwhackers who go up against the Natural Disasters.
Yes.
Yeah. At least as far as a pay-per-view. I don't know about television, but pay-per-view, I'm pretty sure it is. So. But dude, and of course, all this action we're talking about, and guess what the last event of the night is? It's a wedding.
The wedding. The wedding.
Yeah, which I always
one of the most memorable moments in wrestling history. So
absolutely, hands down.
I'll never forget it.
Only in professional
I'd
wrestling.
rather watch that wedding segment than the actual wrestling main event of the show.
It's like only in professional wrestling will you put down your hard-earned money, like $50 or whatever, just so you can see the last thing you're like seeing a wedding. I mean, come on. But I mean, the story wrote itself.
Yeah.
Like you weren't even invited to the wedding. You had to buy your way in. Like,
you had to buy your way in.
And then if you wanted to go to the fucking after party, you had to wait till it came out on Coliseum Video just to see Jake the Snake attack Macho Man.
Well, there you go.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that didn't happen on the original pay-per-view?
No, it was actually on the. At least as far as I
with
remember.
The presents opening up and the snake
that was
and
actually
all that?
on Coliseum Video. It was just.
I remember that so well, man. I didn't know that. Oh, that's like embedded in my brain. Huh.
True story.
Not bad.
Well, guys, up next, let's talk about this next one. Is probably arguably the most famous SummerSlam of all time.
Yes, sir.
It's the SummerSlam you thought you'd never see. SummerSlam 1992.
1992.
Oh my God! What's that? We got another run-in. It's
Zero. Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Perfect
How'd you
timing.
have yours already?
Hey.
Perfect timing.
Oh wait. MWO's here. I gotta go.
Hey,
Same way.
I saw that happening.
that was a very nice B-roll.
That's
Don't open
Hey.
your Funko Pops, B-roll.
Hey, he only agreed to this to come on because I wasn't going to be on.
Hey, what's said on text, stay on text, B-roll.
Hey, I said, hey, you want to come on this Thursday and let me give you even more incentive. I'm not going to be there.
Hey, don't feel bad. When I found out he was going to be here, I actually tried to message him and get a hold of him, and I was going to be like, your ass better be there because it's been a while since we've talked. And he ignored the call completely.
I was at work when you Instagram called me.
You know what? Don't give me those excuses. You didn't even message back.
I watch children. I have to
I have kids. No, I'm kidding.
I got kids too. I got kids.
Oh my god!
I got like 40 kids I was watching at that
It's
moment.
not
There you go.
It's not that hard to keep kids alive, okay? They're pretty resilient.
Quit acting like
Parents,
you're so hard,
I mean, I don't want to throw it out there, but you are correct. I mean,
You feed him and change the diaper, man. Come on.
yeah. Oh, no,
Come on.
I ain't changing no diapers, no. These kids are old enough to tell me what's up, so yeah, there. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's talk about this one. SummerSlam 92. Of course, this is the SummerSlam where we go across the pond, and we are at Wembley Stadium for
Hell
this
yeah.
event. Which, I don't know. What's the Vince McMahon number on this? There was 98,000 people there or some shit
That's
like
what he
that.
claims.
Somewhere around that area.
No,
Yeah.
I honestly, I think it was like in the 60s or 70s, but I think they proclaimed it was like 87,000 or something.
Yeah, I remember hearing 80. I was just watching it, prepping for, watching. And I remember Brett saying something about 80-something thousand.
Yeah, around.
And then hearing 90 from Vince. And, Vince is always thinking so far ahead,
Oh yeah, of course.
But you got to remember, see, back then they did not count the women and children. It was like the Bible times. They only count they count
Yeah.
Only the
and
men.
children.
Shit, they were, I don't know, B-Roll.
Yeah.
I think they were counting the men, women,
I can see
children,
that.
animals,
Yeah,
people who
they were
within
adding
100
children,
feet
actually.
of the damn place.
Vince was, yeah, Vince was.
Yeah.
Everyone who worked
Jake
there.
Snake could have been counted in there,
Yeah.
Every
Hey,
belt
yeah.
was a person. Like, it was all being counted. Everything was being
Oh,
accounted for.
absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Vince
But
counts
I-
the crew for sure.
But this one, as we talked at the beginning there, it was deemed as a SummerSlam you thought you'd never see because, in my recollection, this is the first time, other than, of course, Warrior and Hogan, where I can recall a pay-per-view where you saw multiple matches with, like, heels versus heels and babyface versus babyfaces because there's
Right.
a couple of them on this show.
Sure.
But the first one we got to talk about, and man, oh man, I just thought, like, this was pretty impressive. I am so glad that they had the foresight to do this, but the match that goes on last, the match this show's known for, you saw him with Mr. B-Roll. We got to talk about the Family Feud, the incredible, once again, another incredible Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam involving Bret Hart, but this time against his brother-in-law, the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. Holy shit, like this match, you've got all the great technical stuff in it, as well as like you've got this phenomenal storyline. And oh yeah, not to mention like, 60, 70,000 screaming fans all like, I mean, they're for the Bulldog, but there's still a ton of people cheering for Bret in this matchup too, as well, man.
Yeah.
Guys, I gotta get your thoughts on this classic encounter here. I'll start with you, MWO, between Bret the Hitman Hart and the British Bulldog.
I actually thought this was better than the Mr. Perfect and Bret the Hitman Hart match. And not because Bret lost. I just felt, once again, I'm a story guy. That's why I'm more of a WWE guy than I'm an AEW guy. I like the stories. I like stories being told with the matches, not just matches being put together. It's got to be more than that. That's why I support Roman and my boy Dirty Dom Fan Club. But speaking of now, British Bulldog and Bret the Hitman Hart, man, like this was it, man. This was like the match. I remember watching this match on VHS like Hambone did, rolling over to like Home Depot or whatever, and just watching this over and over. And the way it ended with the roll up, and I've never seen that one before. It was just everything about it was magical. And him winning in his hometown, it was just, I mean, and good on British Bulldog. And once again, he's another guy that I feel like after this was kind of wasted as well. But I mean, he had some stuff afterwards. But I mean, you took this moment and just kind of did it. But man, this, I mean, rest in peace. But he would have probably had never forgotten this moment ever. It was unbelievable. And good on Bret for giving him that win too, because I guarantee this was Bret Hart wanting him to have this moment. So good on Bret. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, better clip that, please. Somebody clip that.
Yeah,
Keep the
I know.
clip. How far are we into this?
He just said
An hour
something
and
nice
three.
about Bret Hart.
this is before Bret Hart.
And
It was
15
real.
seconds. Clip it.
Yeah, this is-
for
yeah.
later.
Okay.
That's how we're going to promote the replay, brother.
There you go.
MWO said this.
Whoa, a Bret Hart? What?
As my fellow Bret Hart lover, Dad316, like, what are your thoughts and your ties to this incredible matchup between the Bulldog and Bret?
I mean, I feel like this was one of those, like, this was that match that kind of led us into the next era, in a sense. Like, the stadium show at the magnitude it was, right? What it meant for Bulldog and for the Hart family, like everything about it. Even Brett talking backstage before the match, still laying into Bulldog, and then the interview going off ringside and talking to the family. Like, everything was well built, everything about it, and for the Intercontinental title to be the main event at a SummerSlam was amazing. I mean, because the heavyweight belt was midway. It was midway through the show.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know?
Not only that, too, let's talk about that title matchup. By the way, you're also going to get the Macho Man Randy Savage defend the WWF Championship against the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, how crazy is it to think in this era that match is hosting the show?
Yeah. I think one of the other things that makes that match kind of forgettable is the fact that we don't get a clean finish out of it.
Yep.
This is true.
You know, it ends in a counter. You know what I mean?
So would you say more of the moment is what got remembered over the actual match itself? More of the magnitude of that moment for Bulldog?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think too the big thing away from the Davey Boy Brett matchup too, as well, is like Vince is finally like, okay, Brett, you're my next guy. Like, this is it. You just took the step into that next level. We're like, okay, you're a main event guy. And lo and behold, a couple months later, they put the belt on him. So
I think the thing that really sticks out for me about the Brett and Bulldog match, you know, outside of it being a great match, is one of the things that really added to it, and they kept showing it during that match, was Diana Hart.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Who was she rooting for? Her brother, her husband?
Yeah.
She's torn, you know, that just added so much to the story and the match itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
Just everything about it. Like, now, also, like we mentioned here earlier, we were talking about the Macho Man against the Warrior, which I agree with you, Hambone. I think the fact that the finish was wonky there, and the whole thing was like, oh, Mr. Perfect, whose corner is he going to be in? And then, like, the player coming out, it was just kind of like, eh. But, I mean, that wasn't the only moment. Like, I mentioned, like, babyface versus babyfaces, but I also want to talk, there is a match on here, heel versus heel, and Hambone, MWO, we're finally getting to the era of your guy.
That's right.
Heartbreak Kid. This is
That's right. The Heartbreak Kid SummerSlam debut as the Heartbreak Kid.
That's right.
Yes,
and he goes one-on-one against the model Rick Martel, who was a heel at the time as well. And I just remember the storyline here was Sherry, of course, being the manager of Shawn Michaels. It's just like, but she had like attracted to Martel. It was just like, I just don't want either of these guys to hit them in the face. So the rule was, the stipulation was you could not hit in the face.
That's right.
It's kind of a hidden gem matchup. It's fun storytelling. It's a fun storyline. It's a pretty cool matchup, I think.
Yeah.
Like, don't sleep on it. Now, a couple.
You know what actually is the moment that sticks out the most for this SummerSlam for me is I what's that?
Was it Rocco coming down the Legion with the Legion? And
That is what I'm getting at. Actually, is I like that image of them coming down in the motorcycles, the LOD on motorcycles, is just so fucking cool. And that image of them coming down is burned in my mind. That is what I remembered as a kid about this SummerSlam.
Yeah,
was them coming down in that badass entrance.
Oh yeah, but just pay no attention to Paul Ellering having a dummy on the front of his bike. But anyways, no, you're totally right. It is one of those iconic images where you see the Legion of Doom come down Wembley Stadium on the motorcycle. Hell of a matchup too against Money Incorporated as well. It's crazy to think that wasn't the tag title match on this show.
Right.
The tag title match was the Natural Disasters against the Beverly Brothers, which was But hey, you win some, you lose some.
Right.
And, you know, Hambone, you bring up a good point as far as like entrances and stuff. There's another very iconic entrance on this show. Let's talk about that matchup between the Ugandan giant Kamala and the Undertaker. And classic Undertaker coming in on like the hearse, you know, right behind the hearse. Oh man, I remember seeing that as a kid, just like holy shit, like this guy. Like I'm not gonna lie, dude. Undertaker scared me as a child at first when I first saw him. Like, but I mean that's what he was supposed to do. And you got to keep in mind this time frame. They really like just started turning Taker babyface essentially. But the matchup itself, it's on the card. I mean, the feud he had with Kamala was okay. It wasn't fantastic by any means, but I think that like definitely this is most known for, of course, Hart and Davey Boy, but also regardless of the finish, the Warrior and Savage did have a pretty good matchup if you just take away that finish on this one. But there's some good matches on this card. And what's funny to me is like there's a couple matches on this card that was just on the pay-per-view and you couldn't even see them on like the Coliseum video release. Because I didn't know years later that like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Bushwhackers took on the Mountie or the Nasty Boys.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know like freaking you had Papa Shango against Tito Santana on this card. It's like what?
What about Nails? And what happened after?
Nails. Oh, yeah.
You know what? Real quick, going back to Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior. The one moment I remember, man, where I was like, okay, that's pretty dope. We got Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior going against each other. Whose side is, Mr. Perfect going to choose, so on and so forth. And at the start of that match, they're standing in the middle of the ring contemplating, can we shake hands? Can we shake hands? And then they shake, and it's like, oh, okay, it's cool. And then the moment that they pulled each other back and bumped into each other, jackets are being thrown off. Everybody's going crazy. And it's like, all right, forget it. We're enemies now. Let's go. And I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. Because originally it seemed like it was going to be a friendly little matchup, and all of a sudden they got pissed off pretty quick. And I was like, all right, now we're having a party.
Nope, this is not going to go that way. Well, I think SummerSlam 92 overall, you're just going to remember it, mainly for Wembley and the Brett and Bulldog. But also, too, I kind of think this was kind of the changing of the guard. Because, let's fast forward a year later. SummerSlam 93 is a completely different landscape in the World Wrestling Federation versus what the roster you have in 92.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we got to talk about the months and months-long feud, the Call to Action campaign, the Lex Express as your main event. Lex Luger challenges Yokozuna for the WWF title.
Yeah.
Can he power slam him?
He did.
He did pick him up on the USS Intrepid or whatever it was, and that was kind of like a build-up to this matchup. But Derek, I got to ask you, buddy. Were you part of the Call to Action campaign? Did you have the little Lex Luger button? Did Lex Luger stop in like a mall near your town, dude?
Yeah. I had a button. I was a fan of Lex, so yeah, it was a good time. It was a really good time. And when I was jumping up and down like crazy when he slammed Yokozuna the first time in the Intrepid.
Yeah, I think we all were. And I wasn't even a Luger guy, and I was just like, "Oh shit, Yokozuna!" As a child, I was convinced.
Was anybody a Luger guy? Is that a thing?
I felt like it was this. With
that's
Luger
debatable. There probably was. You got back in those WCW days, but I don't know back in the WWF. Well, yeah, there were Luger guys. You were one of them too, Hambone.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys. This is another time in history that they messed up again. The Lex Express was huge. You want to look at it now and look back, maybe not, but in that time, this was huge. It was all America. It was all wanting to body slam this big old man that wasn't from America. And in that match, they flippin' blew it. And this is one of the most memorable SummerSlams to me, just for this blown moment. Even as a kid, I knew it was a blown moment. I was like, why the heck did you not have him win the title? What were you thinking? This is your moment. What a blown moment to not have him.
He beat him by count out? Like, what the fuck?
Him, he, like, couldn't get back.
Yeah.
He didn't get up. It was such a waste of, once again, another Vince mess up on this, because Vince dropped
the ball on that one for sure.
Especially when you think of like the amount of money that they spent with like the Lex Express and the whole tour and all that, only for it to not pay off at all.
Yeah.
Nope.
So stupid.
Yeah, and I just like, with me as a kid, like you mentioned about the Luger guy, I wasn't really a Luger guy, but I was like, just like any kid at this time, when this superhero life like characters present to you, I was like, I think I do want Lex Luger to beat Yokozuna. But Mr. B-Roll, can you do us a solid? You think we could get a poll going? I want to know.
We can get a poll going.
If we can get a poll going, I want to know, is SummerSlam 1993 the worst finish of a SummerSlam main event of all time? And I personally, I think it is, because it's just like such a cop-out, such a letdown. Like, why the fuck was, like, Tatanka and the Macho Man coming down and all raising Lex Luger up? Yeah, you won by count. I was like, who gives a fuck? You didn't get the belt.
That is just...
You didn't get the belt.
You just sell... It's like you win a participation trophy for doing that. Yeah. That's what it sounds
and
like.
To amp it and make it all the more worse, they put together like a 3 or 4 minute video package of Lex Luger. I'll be your hero. What? Shit. You didn't win the belt. You won my belt out. Congratulations, man.
Wow.
If there was like a fucking all-you-can-eat like sashimi buffet like across the street, I could have beat Yokozuna by count out. I'm just
there you go.
Come on, I love Yokozuna. I love sashimi.
Hey, we got to get XLJ doing karaoke to that song.
No, you do not want to be with him during karaoke. No.
It gets pretty intense. It gets pretty intense, not gonna lie, dude. But like the rest of this,
I forgot the question now. Sorry.
Oh my god.
It's okay, buddy.
Worst finish, 93. Was it the worst finish?
It was the worst finish of a main event. Yeah.
SummerSlam. Yeah.
So are we just going yes or no? Or are we giving it competitors?
Yeah, give it competitors. Just say yes, no, or something else. I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
But now on this show, the other big rivalry, the big feud going into this show was the one between Bret the Hitman Hart and Jerry the King Lawler. Because keep in mind, Jerry Lawler had jumped Bret Hart at the King of the Ring 93, thus saying, hey, I'm the real king. But I remember watching this as a kid and being like so pissed off because once again, Bret's my guy. Dad, you can relate to this. Bret was our guy. And it's like Jerry Lawler saying all this bad shit about his family and stuff. And it's just like, oh, what the fuck? He's not going to wrestle him. And it's like, Doink the Clown?
Oh.
What?
But Jack Tunney.
Okay.
Don't sleep on this matchup because Doink the Clown, like Matt Bourne, this is a fucking good matchup. This is another, I would say, kind of hidden gem matchup because like he could go, Bret could go in the ring. It didn't really make any sense storyline wise, other than like, okay, Doink is Jerry the King Lawler's jester, like whatever. But of course, now Bret would get his hands on Jerry Lawler, as it was ruled like, okay, Jerry wasn't really hurt. I'll never forget that promo too. I forgot to mention that the promo from Jerry talking about how there was like a 90 car pileup outside of Detroit, pretty much that caused him to like have this serious ghastly leg injury or whatever. And then of course Jerry comes in with the crutch in the match and attacks Bret. And then the finish of this is Jerry ultimately gets that win because Bret won't release the sharpshooter. But I always, guys, let me ask you this: what were your thoughts on the rivalry between Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler? Because I mean, as a kid, I actually enjoyed it. I still go back and look on it. I mean, it was a clash of styles. I think Jerry's a great worker. I mean, I always respected his work. What do you guys think about the King against Bret?
I really like this feud because this was, especially in these years, you know, we're starting to enter the new generation where a lot of stuff is very hokey. And while, you know, yes, Doink the Clown is very hokey, Jerry Lawler was personal, man. He made this feud personal. He said some messed up things about Bret's family. So this one definitely felt like it was real in a time of wrestling where not a lot really felt real.
110% agree.
And it was always like the way he said it, the way he would say the things. You know? There's a lot of wrestlers now that you could kind of hear that taste of the Jerry Lawler way of how he used to do it because man, he knew how to get under your skin and he knew how to do it better than anybody else. Like I hated him during that time. I'll say it, I hated him.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I loved him during this time.
I'm sure
I wonder why.
Of course you did.
I'm sure you did.
It made me
I mean, Jerry said some messed up things.
Yeah.
I think MWO will agree with me here. Jerry said some messed up things about Bret's family, but where's the lies?
Exactly. Is
How
it messed
dare
up
you.
if it's true? Here's the thing, though, but the feud went on, I feel like, forever. I mean, as a kid, I feel like this feud went on for years. I mean, we got Dwight Yates, Dee Dee, we got Kane as, the dentist, and we got other things, and the foot in the mouth matches, and they had
and that's like
Kiss
2
My Mat, they had-
SummerSlams away
Yeah,
from
I
talking
mean,
about that. You're
that's
right.
what I mean.
Yeah,
So,
man, yeah.
I love this feud. I think this is one of Brett's all-time top feuds, to be honest. I mean, obviously,
I agree.
Sean's is number one. Sean had to carry him through, a couple matches. But either way,
This son
this
of a
is
bitch.
the greatest one of the greatest feuds ever.
Oh my gosh.
You picked the worst episode to bring me on, dude. You picked the worst one.
I don't understand
Every
everything
time
with
it's
Sean. He carried him.
Oh,
I needed
man, this is
backup,
so
bro.
fun.
Just saying.
Shit.
But
Well,
yes, I love the feud. I thought it was phenomenal. So.
Well, let's talk about your guy's guy, the toy boy himself, Shawn
Yeah.
Michaels.
Yeah, let's talk about Toy Boy.
His matchup here at SummerSlam on paper, I felt like should have been epic, but it was an okay match, just not as great as I think it could have been. But Mr. Perfect against Shawn Michaels for the IC title on this show. And I think also, too, at this point, too, as well, like, I mean, yes, Kurt's kind of back in the fold of things, wrestling full-time, but I don't know, like, there's just something was so more special, like, before Mr. Perfect, before he had that injury. He's still fucking good.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But it's
And
just,
the ending, too. It's just,
yeah, the ending of
Sean
this
got
is
another
really
whack
long.
ending. Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
really, this is a weird time in WWF for guys like Mr. Perfect too, because not only he had that injury and all that, but Vince was making it clear that he wanted to go with younger guys, and for him, younger meant if you were 35 or older, you were old. He was kind of pushing out, Perfect and Ric Flair and Macho Man and all these guys who were not 30 or under. So it's weird because, Perfect isn't in the best condition of his career, but it's also weird just because he's not really being booked well because Vince is kind of over the older guys at this point.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And speaking of older guys, there's also a guy who would have his last in-ring appearance on this show. Let's talk about your opening contest with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, going up against a newly babyface, Razor Ramon, which I thought this was a great opening matchup. Like I say, SummerSlam, these first years, they always kicked it off with a great opener, man. And this is another one that's up there too. And this is really kind of the start where you see Razor Ramon, because I mean, months later he wins the Intercontinental title. I mean, it was great seeing the bad guy, and I think for him, what really kind of humanized Razor Ramon really was when he took that loss to the 1-2-3 Kid on Monday Night Raw.
Oh yes, yeah. That's when I guess when you get to that point when he got pinned by the 1-2-3 Kid, I think he brought his ego or his chismo, if you will, a little fractured a little bit. So he had to rebuild that to get to that level to actually where it was going at that time.
Yeah. And gentlemen, there's just one more matchup I want to mention on this card before we move on to the next SummerSlam, and I want to talk about the tag team title matchup between the Steiner brothers against the Heavenly Bodies. This is a hidden gem matchup, in my opinion, too, because this was the Heavenly Bodies were a great tag team, I always thought. That was a team they did not get nearly enough credit.
Who did that consist of?
Oh, we're talking about the
Dr. Tom Pritchard and Gigolo.
Jimmy Del Rey. Always doing this shit. It's just what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
It's you, sir, look like you should be changing the oil on my mother's Plymouth minifan. I'm just saying.
There you go.
I like that how you kept it time specific to in the 90s. We're going. That's exactly
such a trope in wrestling too. Let's find an ugly guy and call him handsome or playboy or gigolo or something. You know what I mean?
Yes, 110% agreed. But hey, the Steiner brothers and the Heavenly Bodies, I thought was a great tag team matchup. And I mean, there was times, honestly, maybe I was naive, but I thought, holy shit, Jim Cornette, he's already managing Yokozuna. He's going to have the tag titles, but the Steiner brothers pulled it out. And this is a hidden gem matchup I would recommend you check out. But boys,
we're going to talk about all this good, but not the bad.
Well, there was some. Yeah, I guess we can briefly talk about the bad. Are we talking Marty Jannetty, Luffy Borga bad? Or are we talking?
I was talking Undertaker, Giant Gonzalez.
Oh my! Oh my God!
Okay.
Yeah,
the collective groan.
My
How
goodness.
Who was it? Was it Michael that said, like, I swear to God, every time I come on here, somebody brings up Giant Gonzalez.
We can't escape him. We cannot escape this big hairy bastard. Yes, the first and only rest in peace matchup, which I still don't know what the fuck a rest in peace match was. Like, literally, like, you just hit the guy and you put like the little the flower things on him, and that's it. So okay, whatever. Yeah, this match happened. It sucked. The end.
It was the Giant Gonzalez match. That goes without saying.
And you would think that would be the end of the Undertaker's hokey matches, but no. Let's fast forward a year later, because by God, we're getting the Undertaker versus the Undertaker.
Yeah,
I remember as a kid, I was like, holy fuck, what is going on? Like, my little 10-year-old brain could not process this. Like, but it's the Undertaker. But how's the Undertaker there? Like, is the Undertaker not with Paul Bearer? Is he with the $1 Million Man? What is going on?
I don't care what anybody says. That match was dope.
Yeah.
It was
like, not from a working standpoint, no, but from just it was just a wild storyline. And then all the stuff with Leslie Nielsen leading up to it too, trying to solve the mystery stuff. Well,
yes. Yeah, I was a huge Naked Gun guy, so I love seeing Leslie Nielsen.
Forgot about that.
WWE TV. But yeah, and that's another one. I agree. I rented the shit out of it too. But like the main event, like just the build up and just all that about it's pretty cool. But the match itself, nah. It definitely should have been the match that closed this show, because the match that should have closed this show by far the best match on the card. The family feud, we get it here a couple years later, only this time we're getting brother versus brother, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, in a steel cage matchup for the WWF champion. Yes.
Not HBK. Go ahead. Say it again.
Bret Hart versus Owen Hart.
Ooh,
and
I like
man,
the
storyline of this was just chef's fucking kiss. Because you have that WrestleMania 10 all-time classic with Bret and Owen.
Yep.
Owen gets the win. We all know what happens at the end of the night. Bret wins the title. Owen looking on just like, you son of a bitch. You have to top me once again. Fast forward, we go to King of the Ring. What happens? Owen Hart follows up his brother from the year before and wins the King of the Ring tournament. So it's just kind of like anything you can do, Bret, I can do better. And just the build-up for this, the whole point of the cage was not so much to keep the brothers in, but it was to keep the rest of the family out, because the Hart family was all over this fucking matchup, dude. Like and also you get the on-camera return to the WWF of the British Bulldog in this encounter as well, because the Bulldog was in the crowd for this one. But I'll just never forget like the promos or the talk, like the interview of the family before like the pay-per-view match before the match starts, and just like the back and forth between like Bruce Hart and like Jim the Anvil Neidhart is so good in this, by the way. He is an unsung hero in this, like at this stage of the rivalry. Because I'll never forget like when in the aftermath of this, when they catch Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart like on camera, and like it was so heated and so real, because Jim Neidhart's talking about how the family did him wrong, and he's just like, yeah, I left him laying back there in that goddamn ring, and it was just like, holy shit, like did he just say what I think he said? I was like, damn, the Anvil was pissed. But this matchup though, I gotta say, Dad 316, how great of a cage matchup was this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, man, it's unforgettable. Like no matter what, I was literally before getting on. It was on my screen. I was watching that match before I turned off to come on. It's just it's just such an epic memory of its time, brother versus brother, and how well it was built for that time. It's ironic we live in a time now where if you paid attention to SummerSlam back then, you might see some things kind of rolling over to now, but that's how impactful this family was on wrestling. And to have them in a cage match like that, to keep the family out, keep any kind of, interaction from the outside from coming in, because this is what it, truly was about, was these brothers going at each other. I'll never forget it. It's probably one of my favorite moments at SummerSlam. Yes, there are some HBK ones in there too.
Yeah. And we're getting ready to get into some HBK ones. Okay, boys. But guys, I gotta ask you though, like how impactful do you feel like this steel cage matchup was as part of the rivalry between Brett and Owen? I'll start with you, Hambone.
Yeah, I would argue honestly that this is one of the best steel cage matches ever. Especially at that time, it was 100% the best cage match I'd ever seen. Owen really carried his less talented brother to an amazing match.
Yes, sir.
These guys, no more, you guys. I'm done.
Well said. Well said.
You made
I
my
was
partner
gonna say
walk
it.
off.
I'm glad
here.
you said it.
It's a handicap match now.
Okay,
He
see
wants
how it is.
I
I need the hot tag. Dad 316. I need the hot
He's coming
tag.
back. He's coming back. He's coming back. He's coming back.
But in all seriousness, it was a great match, and I do honestly believe it's one of the best steel cage matches ever.
I agree. I still like the Mania match better. Sorry, I do. Not because Owen won, but just because it's Mania. It was so iconic, and Brett won it at the end. I just feel.
I'll be the first to admit I like the Mania match better myself, but these are both like phenomenal matches. I
They
love
were.
them both.
Yeah.
They were. And Brett gets a lot of credit, and, deserved, you guys deserve. But Owen does it, and I think people sleep on Owen until he passed away. But in the time, I was never not an Owen Hart fan. I do believe Owen Hart is better than Brett, but that's neither here nor there right now. But my skills, everything Owen did was phenomenal, and he never got that respect because his brother was just so big. You know what I mean? And it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I feel like this, like I mean, they're both. I don't know. It's both different style of matches, kind of in a way. Like this like,
They are.
it was intense before, but this is like up to 100. And then when you have the family involved, man. Now we gotta, there's a hidden gem of a matchup on this card too, as well. We gotta talk about, and it does involve your guys' boy, because in my opinion, I think this has the best one-on-one matchup ever between Razor Ramon and Diesel, or Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, for the IC title. Because, and you gotta keep in mind, Diesel at this point, this is like prime time. Like Kevin Nash, this was his fucking year essentially, because like he'd been running wild. You start off the beginning of the year in the Rumble where he's just tossing everybody out, and then you get to where like essentially he wins the IC title. He like technically. This is going to pay me to say this, guys. Technically, he did beat Bret Hart at King of the Ring 94. Granted, it was by DQ, but just saying. And then you of course, him and Shawn literally winning the tag belts the night before at Market Square Arena, and our neck of the woods B-roll. So
two dudes with attitudes.
Yeah,
dudes with attitude.
But
man, that'd be a good name for a podcast.
It would. It's a really good name for a podcast, I think.
I think you're
just saying. I think so.
I think I can start one.
I'm all about cheap plugs.
It's trademarked, but you guys should try.
The cheaper the plug, the better.
The better. You're the plug master. You're pretty good at plugging. You're good at plugging a lot of things. Wait a minute. What? Anyways.
Where are we going?
Hey-o. But no, this is a great IC title matchup. You also get to involve Sweetness himself, Walter Payton, in the corner of Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Bears fan, so I love that. So I'm just saying. It's a great matchup. This is a great Intercontinental Championship matchup that just doesn't get nearly enough credit.
The one thing I would say with that match was rewatching it today. There was just so much going on the outside. Like there was just so much, and there was such a great match happening in the ring. But then there was so much following HBK and Sweetness on the outside. Like there was just so much going on, and I felt like if it could have clouded it, like it could have possibly taken away from the the greatness of that match. I'm glad it didn't, but I noticed there was a lot of time that was invested into the outside.
Yeah, and I would say this as well, man, with that matchup too. Really kind of starting to set the seeds for Shawn and Diesel to break up as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall great matchup. And I mean, this SummerSlam, like, I mean, it's mostly, Brett and Owen, like, also a big storyline going into it.
I'm on a podcast right now, Logan.
Tatanka against Lex Luger.
Lay down.
Yeah.
Because remember, at the time, Lex Luger, it was like, oh, he's going to sign with the $1 Million Corporation or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that was not the case. So I always thought this matchup, man, I couldn't believe it as a kid that Tatanka is becoming a bad guy. He's with the $1 Million Corporation. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Weird times. Yeah,
that's weird, man.
Yeah,
I think Alondra Blaze and Bull Nakano is a hidden gem match as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I truly agree with that. Absolutely.
They had a great match.
Yeah.
One of the very few women's matches. I mean, you hadn't seen one at a SummerSlam. You hadn't seen one really on anything. Yeah. When it comes to WWE.
Hey, real quick, I think we got an echo or something going on the stage.
I'm getting it from you too, XLJ.
Okay. Like, I don't know. I think Derrick, you may want to adjust your thing again. I don't know. Like, it was here. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, this.
I was laughing because you said Tatanka. You're the only one that
I get the okay, so real quick, because we still got some more SummerSlam, so pull back the curtain. So he's putting together the PW60 slides for this week, and I told him to put together one we were talking about, like, we got to highlight they signed Matt Cardona against Hiroshi Tanahashi. And I guess in text he thought I said Tatanka. Because there's when we're going through the slides, I'm like, why the fuck is there a slide of Tatanka against Cardona? And that just become a reoccurring joke. Like, anyways, I digress.
In my defense, it was written in his chicken scratch, so.
Yeah, I do have chicken scratch. I'm not gonna lie. So. But SummerSlam '94, like, another big thing I want to point out about this one, and we're gonna move on. This is actually the first event ever held in the United Center, believe it or not. Like, I'm not just the first pay-per-view of wrestling. This is like the first event ever held in the United Center. Which,
really?
Here we go. So many years later, and look at the United Center is practically sold out for this year's All Out. So it's some interesting stuff. But let's go a year later. SummerSlam '95, and probably one of the worst SummerSlams of all time, with the exception of probably one of the greatest SummerSlam matches of all time.
The real main event of this show.
The real main event of this show. Dad 316, we got to give these fellas their moment here. It was a fucking amazing matchup. Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, the rematch, ladder match for the IC title.
Should we just leave the two of them on the screen and let them drool over their boy for a little bit?
Right. Can you guys just leave us alone for at least 30
Hey, MWO. Yes, you and I haven't talked a lot lately, but did you know that I'm meeting Shawn soon?
No.
You shut your mouth.
August 12th. I am driving to Pittsburgh, and he is going to be at Steel City Con.
Oh, I am soups jealous. I have out of all the wrestlers I've ever met, Shawn is not one of them, and it's always killed me to not have ever meeten Shawn. Oh my gosh!
We had a great conversation.
Well, here you go, really quick. I'll talk quick before you get into the SummerSlam. Just because Hambone's wearing the shirt, I worked at Six Flags Magic Mountain. It's a theme park. Okay, I was a supervisor in games, and whenever celebrities came, I was in charge of walking them around, making sure they don't get interrupted by crazy kids. Macho Man came wearing a tank top. It was freezing cold. He had homegirl, Gorgeous George, at the time. That was who he was dating in that moment when I met him. And I walked him around. And the best moment of him, other than he was one of the nicest guys I've ever met, was that she was begging him to play the games, and he kept refusing. And at one point, she wanted to do the one where you got to throw the ball and knock all the pins over or whatever. And she was like, come on, Macho, play. She called him Macho. Come on, Macho, play. And he was like, no, I can't. My hands are freezing. And it's like one of the best moments. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you're in a flipping tank top and it's like 60 degrees outside. But yeah, and he was super short, but super. It was the first time I ever met somebody who was like so yoked in like person, like, because I was just walking with him. Super cool. And Gorgeous George was as busty as you would assume. That was like the first time ever I'd seen anything like that either. I was in awe. I was like an 18-year-old working at Magic Mountain.
I love me some Macho Man, but this period of Macho Man, I always refer to as like midlife crisis Macho Man, but I still love them.
Like, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
He talked like that. Oh, my dude is on here. Yeah, but he did talk like that. He was straight in character. I don't know if that's how he talked all the time, but it was legit. Yeah.
Hey, they took your podcast name.
They did. Who the heck is
like
on
literally,
here?
we just came up with the idea.
Really?
And somebody already has it.
Someone stole it.
Oh, no.
But we should talk about this IC match, though, right, Hambone? Because I do got to say, this match, even though you guys are saying it is obviously the best match on this card, this match is so slept on. Because WrestleMania 10 match is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And this is the right person wins this one. But it was awful to, yes.
I got a hot take on this. In my opinion, personally,
Good.
I think this match is better than 10.
I agree.
Okay.
The first one was too new. You know that they only had one ladder at WrestleMania 10, right?
Right.
One ladder. If that thing would have broke, they would have been doomed. They were more prepared.
Yeah, you're right.
They were a little bit more fresh together. They were already kind of in that click thing more so at this time. I thought this match was better too, just personal. But WrestleMania 10, I feel like that match is taken away from this match. I just ordered a poster for my wall from this SummerSlam with them on it. This is one of the best.
You know what I like about the second one compared to the first one too is that in the second one, at this point, both of these men are baby faces.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more of like, oh man, who do I root for here? Yeah, because I mean, it was, WrestleMania 10, just a couple months before Shawn's the heel, but at this point, he turned face. So we got a very rare face versus face match during this time in WWF.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, but you know what they say? If it's nice, do it twice.
Yeah,
I agree.
This matchup lived up to the hype and then some, and I agree. I think this is one of the most criminally underrated and slept-on matches, not only in Intercontinental history between these guys, not only like in SummerSlam history, but in professional wrestling history in general. Because people always go towards the first one, and it's fucking phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but dude, this matchup is epic in every sense of the way.
I agree.
Now, unfortunately, it didn't close the show. Yikes. Your main event was one Big Daddy Cool Diesel defending the WWF title against King Mabel. And I mean, no disrespect to the late, great Mabel, but this match was the drizzling shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a doctor about that if you've got the drizzling shits.
Yeah, pretty much so. Yeah.
Pretty fucking bad. But also,
But I mean, we talked about the best match. Let's talk about what your guys' boy is doing during this SummerSlam.
I was getting ready to say, our guy was in a heated rivalry with Jerry the King Lawler. And let me tell you something, when you're getting your ass handed to you as much as Jerry Lawler was, what do? What's the first thing you do? You're like, you know what? I'm going to see about getting my demented dentist involved. And that's exactly what happened. Because Isaac Yankem DDS against Yeah.
Don't call Dennis.
But, I mean, it was the first time you get to see Glenn Jacobs on pay-per-view. So, I mean, there is that.
Yeah.
Because the man... And what a credit to him, the fact that he can be dealt with, like, this shitty gimmick, a rip-off of Diesel, and still become one of the most iconic characters in all professional wrestling of all time in Kane. Just saying.
Well, no doubt.
But, this match, it happened. There is kind of a fun match, I think, on this one, I would say. The casket match between The Undertaker and Kama.
Kama,
the Godfather, a.k.a. Papa Shango, a.k.a. whatever you want to call it.
I love the thing that I love about the Taker and Kama match. I love the build up to it. Kama goes, steals Undertaker's urn, melts it down into a necklace that he starts wearing just to taunt him. I love all of it.
You talk about iconic images. One of the images I always have as a kid from this era is the creatures of the night in the crowd, like screaming out, like, no!
Yeah.
Like, oh, man. That got to be as a kid, dude, for
Yeah.
real. Now the rest of this card, it's just kind of like, let's just throw shit on a card. But I mean, some notable things to mention. This is the first pay-per-view appearance of one Hunter
Triple
Hearst
H.
Helmsley as he goes up against Bob Sparkplug Holly.
Harley.
Yes,
Mhm.
because he's still a race car driver at this point.
What a match.
But
We got a
Okay.
race car driver. We got a dentist. That's good shit, pal.
Once again, in the history of SummerSlam, another great opening matchup. Hakushi going up against the 1-2-3.
Mm.
Oh,
This,
Okay.
this
Oh,
is
yeah.
Not
this
bad.
is a slept-on match.
Yep.
Right here.
Ah, man, that was an awesome match.
Mhm.
Slept on, yes.
I wholeheartedly agree, man. And then one more thing we got to point out on this card. How about the pay-per-view debut of one Barry Horowitz
Horowitz.
and Skip? I just never.
Yeah,
I remember
the
that
Sunny.
rivalry as a kid because I remember
Friend of the
watching-
show. Friend of the show.
That's right, Barry Horowitz is
Friend
a
of the
friend.
show.
He wished Chubby a happy birthday. Let's not forget that. But yes,
Oh, well.
Barry Horowitz, getting the upset win against Skip. But I remember it like it was yesterday, watching the Action Zone on USA Network, and he gets that win, and like you get to the pay-per-view, and Barry Horowitz wins again, and that classic Horowitz wins. Horowitz wins. I know it makes you want to choke your drink, right?
You good, D?
Oh,
Hey,
my
you
Lord.
Breathe.
It's gonna be okay, buddy. It's gonna be.
I
Okay.
know.
All right,
Wrong-
then, boys.
Wrong pipe.
Let's fast forward a year later. Let's talk SummerSlam 1996 from the Gund Arena in Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, I actually think that, B-roll there, choking on his water, that's a great segue into 1996 and Jerry Lawler and Jake the Snake.
Oh,
the way that they're
Yes.
see
Yes.
what you did there. The heated
Mhm.
rivalry.
What I did there?
Mm.
Fucking
Yeah.
professional here.
That's pretty
There you go.
damn professional.
You're welcome. It was planned. It was a
Mm.
It was
planned.
planned.
It was a planned
Well
bit.
played. Well played.
I only told Hambone about it.
Mm.
Yes. Nice.
Say, hey,
But-
when we talk about 96, that's what I'm gonna do.
This is what
Choke on your water a little bit.
There you go.
But this SummerSlam is kind of, it's okay. Like the most memorable thing by far, the Boiler Room Brawl. The
Oh,
Undertaker
that's classic.
against Mankind.
Yes.
Like, and just the big storyline of Paul Bearer finally turning on the Undertaker happening
Taker.
on this show. I
Ooh.
mean, like,
Man.
what the hell did I just see? All these years together, and now Paul Bearer's turning on the Undertaker. What is happening?
The ultimate betrayal and hitting him with the urn. That's
me
the
ask
worst
you-
part.
Let me ask you guys, like, how affected of this were you as a kid when this happened? When this happened, were you shocked? Were you just like, how could Paul Bearer do such a thing?
Oh, I was pissed. I
Yeah.
was pissed.
I was heated. I was mad.
I was definitely shocked, especially because 96, I'm 9 years old, and I know, earlier, XLJ, you were talking about how The Undertaker scared you. Well, Mankind scared the shit out of me as a kid when he debuted. All those, the vignettes of him in the boiler room
Yes,
with the
boiler
rats and
room,
things
yeah.
there. Yeah, he scared the shit out of me. So not only am I already afraid of him, but now one of my favorites in The Undertaker just got turned on by his longtime manager. So this definitely was a shock for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude, I just remember like it was one of those things out of left field I did not see coming, man.
No.
Yeah.
I just took my breath away, literally. Now, your boy Hambone and MWO is in the main event of this show, defending his WWF Championship, and should have lost that championship to one big fan Fader. Because come on paper, Fader would have beat the shit out of Shawn Michaels. Come on,
All
man,
day.
it's the Mastodon.
All
The
day.
I mean, but we're not on paper here, you know?
Yeah.
This is
You know what I'm
Fader.
saying?
But
Oh,
So,
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
here's the thing. Because I am a Vader mark as well, which you guys probably understand. As a fat guy, I always root for my fellow fatties. So I
And he
was
was
a
on Boy
Vader
Meets-
fan.
He was on Boy Meets World.
Yes, he
Also
was. Good on
that.
him.
So was Sean,
Yeah.
though. But,
Yep.
But anyway, I think the thing to note about it is what happened again afterwards. Vader was supposed to beat Shawn for that world title down,
Yep.
a couple months later, but he fucked up a bunch of spots in the match, and Shawn voiced his concern, and there went that push.
This was that match. This was that match. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But still, though, I think I'm just saying Peter should have won. But anyways, I digress. You know, a feud, a rivalry I kind of liked at this time frame that like a lot of people forget about. I kind of like the rivalry between Goldust and Wildman Mark Marrow. They had a matchup.
Yes.
That was a good one. That was a good rivalry,
Yes.
Yeah.
I also like Sable.
This is
I
also
like Sable.
Wait, what did you think? I was confused.
Who invited this guy again? Who invited him?
this is
But-
also Stone
think of
Cold
Sable right
SummerSlam
now.
debut.
Yes.
Yes.
He was on the damn
Absolutely.
pre-show
It
against
was on the
Yokozuna.
free for all, yeah.
Yeah, pre-show.
I'm not gonna
That's
lie,
where
Sable.
Yokozuna broke the ropes, right? He tried
Broke
to
the ropes,
bomb him
trying to
and
do the
just fell
bonsai
over
drop.
instantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Well, it was just like, okay, I guess I'll take it. Like, and to me, you want to know what would be a perfect meme for that in today's society would be a win's a win. A win is
Right.
a win.
There you go.
Just saying, brother.
Yeah.
One more match I want to kind of note here that is another kind of hidden gem, I think. And once again, it's another opening matchup to SummerSlam. Owen Hart against Savio Vega. It's
Vega.
a great opening matchup on this show.
Yes.
But
Savio
Savio's
Vega,
underrated.
another guy during this time that was just
Workhorse.
putting on banger matches. And
Banger
did not
and the
get
banger matches,
the
yeah.
credit for it.
Yeah.
me personally, I felt like Savio should have truly had like a true, authentic run with the IC title. I
Yeah,
really do.
Oh,
I really
yes.
think he deserved
Of course.
100%.
that. Yeah.
He was
Alright.
he was popular as hell too.
Oh, he
During
was
this
a
time.
over.
Mad
Yeah,
popular.
everybody loves Savio, man. Everybody. It's like, how could you not love Savio? And the rivalry he had with Steve Austin, too. Shit.
Yeah.
That was great.
That
Well,
was solid.
boys, let's go 1 year later. Let's talk SummerSlam 97, Hart and Soul.
This is a
Oh,
good one
this-
for us to talk
Oh.
about. Yeah.
This is probably my
Yeah.
favorite SummerSlam.
This is a loaded one. This is a good one too. This is another easily my top 5, and I guess Dad 316. Let's say it. We are a little biased because this is a Hart Foundation like heavy SummerSlam pretty much. 'Cause
Yes.
going into this, literally every member of the Hart Foundation had a stipulation. Even though the Anvil wasn't even on the damn card, he like said he would shave his beard if everybody lost or something like that.
Mhm.
But your main event, anytime you got these guys in the ring, it was great. And this is a phenomenal matchup. Bret the Hitman Hart against The Undertaker for the WWF Championship. And bit controversial because your boys, one Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, is the special referee in
Yes,
this
he is.
Doesn't
matchup.
know how to mind his own damn business.
Well, I mean, they, even though he was a wrestling, they
Here
knew
we
they
go.
had to have him on the show, or else why would anybody watch this main event? You know,
He had a great referee
heck
outfit
no,
on,
no.
too.
Who
Yeah.
invited him too?
Still carrying Brett, right? Even when he's not wrestling.
I was surprised he showed up because I thought he lost his smile again. But anyways, I digress.
Bro,
Oh,
what was so
Oh,
wild
Oh,
about that
gosh.
match was, I
Oh,
mean,
God.
like it was just wild. Bret Hart versus Undertaker, HBK
Uh-huh.
being involved.
I
Like,
agree.
dude, at that moment, you didn't have things like that happening. Like Bret
Mm-mm.
and Taker were same level type of, like you could swing either way with both of them when it comes to like babyface or whatever. But
Right.
when you added HBK in that moment and where HBK was at that time in his career, dude, that was an epic SummerSlam match. That's probably the most unforgettable one for me because I still to this day remember Shawn and
Yep.
what he did and
Spit in the
the
face. Yep.
outcome of everything and just how, like, as a kid, I was just like, oh no. Like that was my one thing was just like, oh no.
yeah.
Well, just,
That just happened.
And for me, honestly, I mean, this is getting, for me, peak Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
This where he turns heel here, and then we start to get heel DX Shawn Michaels. Those 2 years, peak Shawn Michaels for me. So I'm loving everything that Shawn is doing at this time.
Well, this
I
is a
want-
yeah.
This
This-
is a
this-
pivotal moment in their rivalry too. Honestly, I mean,
Yeah.
let's call a spade a spade.
But not
And
just
also
that.
too,
Yeah.
and you know what? I've got to give him flowers. I got to give your boy credit. He got 2 great fucking phenomenal rivalries out of this. Not only with Bret, but with Undertaker as well.
Undertaker too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to say that because this made all 3 of them. This was like their moment for all of them because this obviously began Bret and Shawn, and that rivalry really then went off.
Yeah.
It did a great with Bret and Taker, but at the same time, this started Undertaker and Shawn, and Not only did it lead to the, no matter what anybody says, if you try to disagree, I don't care, greatest Hell in the Cell match of all time between Shawn and The Undertaker, it also led to the feud leading to Shawn being injured and not wrestling for 5 years, which is the 5 worst years of my life. So this moment of this leads to the screw job. This moment in time
leads to it. Yeah.
So this leads to Undertaker's basically WrestleMania streaks in a sense of being important with him and Shawn having those matches and leading to Triple H. And that's when the streak got this lead. This moment in time is way more important than I think people truly realize. This was a huge moment in wrestling history.
It's like it's slingshot history.
Yeah, it's like a kickoff into the Attitude Era.
DX, everything.
That's for sure into it. Yep.
This is everyone. This
So,
moment.
Now that we've finished talking about Shawn, I have to leave because my phone's about to die, and I'm on my phone.
Story.
But
I see how it is. Well, before we let you go, give us a little quick plug of Palooza, my friend.
You can find me. You can find me on Twitter at Notorious_Bone. You can find me on Instagram and Threads under my shoot name, Thomas.Cummings920. You can find me on TikTok right here, Hambone, couple A's, couple O's. And this Sunday, me, Con from the 703, and it's Lord Lovelace, a.k.a. Nick. We are coming back with the Ego Drip podcast. We'll be here on Twitch. We will be on YouTube at 7 p.m. So come join us, you fucking marks.
Yes.
Do it.
Awesome.
Well, Hambone, it was always a pleasure to have you on, regardless of your mad love for the Heartbreak.
You're leaving me. You're leaving me now? Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He
we
can't
pretty
get
much
out
got
any
through
quicker
Sean.
right now. We're gonna tag team on MWO
Yeah, we're going
right
with
now.
Sean.
Oh, God.
That's true. I mean, after this, Sean's gone anyway, so what is there really to talk about?
Until next week when we have a huge Shawn Michaels moment, which we'll talk about that. But
That's true.
Thank you again,
All right.
brother, for coming on.
All right, fellas. It was fun. I'll talk to you all later.
Appreciate it, Hambone. See ya.
See you, my friend. All right, guys, another pivotal moment, though, on this show. We got to talk about the infamous moment where Owen Hart essentially breaks Stone Cold Steve Austin's neck. And what a scary fucking moment. Like, that, I'll never forget as a kid. Even as a kid, I knew, like, okay, something's up here because that pinfall was, like, weak as fuck. Like, what the hell is going on? I'm amazed Steve Austin was able to even do that, as bad as the injury was. Yeah, and there was, unfortunately, as great of a performer Owen Hart was, there was a lot of heat between Steve and Owen for a long time after this.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty botched move. I mean, it just shows that even the best in the world aren't perfect, right? And wrestling is that.
Absolutely,
There's 2 moments of time in wrestling that I'll truly never forget. It's embedded in my brain. One was when Owen died. I was watching that pay-per-view live.
Yeah.
When he passed and fell through the ring. Because they didn't show it. They cut to a random interview with him, cutting about the pills and this and that, and then they cut to Jerry and JR, and I was like, what the heck is going on once again in high school?
Yeah.
But this was another moment that I'll never forget because he did the move, and he didn't pin him. Stone Cold didn't get up, and then Owen walked around the ring for what seemed like 30 minutes, but it was probably only like 4, 5, 6 minutes, and taunted the crowd, and me and my friends are like, what's going on? Like, pin him! Like, what is happening? And then he walks over to him and touches him and just, you know, at that time, once again, I was like, what the hell is going on? Not knowing that he broke his neck and was paralyzed.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my God. It was a crazy, surreal moment, man.
It is.
And guys, I got to ask a side question. How many of you as a kid tried to enter that damn Discovery Zone contest to fucking win the $1 million casket? Because I sent off like a bunch of shit for that. I was like, I know I'm going to get the call. I
almost got a chance to join that, but I was like, nah. I thought about it. I really thought about it. I was like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
God, Vince is going to be calling. Somebody's going to be calling me. They're going to be giving me that damn prize. No, it didn't happen. But still, I digress. Some other moments here, like we talked about the Hart Foundation. So, by the way, the stips for the Hart brothers here. If Brett lost, he would not wrestle in the United States again. If Owen lost, he would have to kiss. Or actually, if Austin had lost, he would have had to kiss Owen Hart's ass.
Okay. Yeah.
another one, the British Bulldog against Ken Shamrock, where pretty much the loser had to eat dog food.
Oh my
yeah.
God, I remember that. Oh my God.
I'm sorry, if the Bulldog lost, he had to eat dog food.
Oh, okay.
Like, ugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then probably
Good match
maybe
there.
the most memorable stip, Brian Pillman against Goldust, and if Brian Pillman lost, he had to wrestle the next night on
Yeah.
Raw in a dress.
Boy,
Well, guess what? Old Flying Brian was wrestling the next night on Raw in a dress.
In the
he
dress.
rocked it. He
Mhm.
rocked it. I remember. He rocked it.
And I
He
mean, I
right there
remember
for sure.
that.
Yeah.
If we can talk very briefly, that rivalry with Pillman and Goldust, that was fucking intense, man.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
Oh, man, it was-
It's unfortunate that Brian
it was
passed
something.
away a month later, but holy shit, man.
Goldust and anyone. Go back. Goldust is super underrated.
Oh,
Goldust
yeah.
Goldust did.
Oh,
Goldust,
absolutely,
everyone he
yes.
wrestled was phenomenal. Look at him now; he's phenomenal. But Goldust, man, he did his thing. I'm telling you. Go back and watch.
Oh, yeah.
And then Piper
100
and everybody. Yeah.
Mhm.
110%, my friend.
Yes.
Lastly, I want to talk about on this SummerSlam is, and once again, this goes back to just great fucking openers, man. The opening matchup on this one, steel cage between Mankind and Triple H. Classic.
Oh,
Hall of
yeah.
Famers.
Yes.
That was your opening matchup.
Mhm.
Man, oh man, that was fucking incredible. Like such a
Oh
great,
yeah.
great matchup, man. Overall, SummerSlam '97. I agree with you, Dad. 360. It's just a top to bottom. It's a great fucking SummerSlam.
I just feel like it just pushed us forward, like so heavily. You know,
really
did.
did.
out of any of them, that was the one that impacted what was going to happen next in the evolution of wrestling. Like
Attitude Era, everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah, 110%
Well said.
agree. Well, to wrap us up here, we're going to talk one more SummerSlam we got to get in. And me personally, this is probably my favorite SummerSlam, honestly. And if people ask me to show them a pay-per-view, a show that defines the Attitude Era, honestly, this is the show I go to. I want to talk about SummerSlam 1998 to close us out here tonight. Highway to Hell, baby. This
Yes.
SummerSlam
This is
was
the song,
fucking
Taker and Austin. Yes.
Taker and Austin is fucking incredible. I love just the build up to that one was so fucking good.
And wasn't
Yeah.
that like the first like big pay-per-view where they started doing like, you know, using theme music with like AC, because I remember they used AC/DC.
Yeah.
for
Man,
that.
Highway to
AC/DC
Hell,
was,
man.
yes.
With Hugh.
That montage was awesome.
Yes, that
Yes,
was
it
super
was.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I fucking love that. And then I also like we were talking about criminally underrated matchups. Maybe one of the most criminally underrated ladder matches of all time. Triple H against The Rock for the IC title happened on this show
Ooh.
too.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yes.
Dude,
Yes. Yes.
I mean that matchup too. That matchup, god dang, it's fucking good. Like,
It was.
I mean, you look at this show and you have your top two matches. There's pretty much like the biggest rivalries in the company, and you have the established stars really with Taker and Rock, and then Taker and Austin, and then with Rock and Triple H, it's the up and coming, which is so fucking crazy to say that then.
Mhm.
Like first
Yeah.
where they are now is like on the Mount Rushmore almost of the Attitude Era, I would say.
Right.
But dude, that ladder match to me, as great as Taker and Austin was, that ladder match stole the show.
Absolutely.
That was
Yes.
a good match.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
It
also
wasn't
think
Shawn Michaels though, so that's a good thing.
It wasn't, man. But it was his protege. It's his dude though. So you know.
yeah, it's his bro,
Yeah. It's his
different type of ladder match kind of too, you know, I
Yeah.
thought compared to Razor and Shawn, but still.
Well, they had great chemistry. Triple H.
Yeah,
and The
they
Rock.
did.
Oh,
Always
absolutely. Yes.
Oh,
One of
yeah.
the greatest feuds ever. Yeah, them two.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Also, we had the New Age Outlaws against poor old Mankind all by himself in a
Oh.
handicap.
Oh man.
Falls count anywhere match. I just remember Kane, his tag team partner, just coming up at the end and just beating the shit out of poor old Cactus Jack. It's like, come on, man.
Mhm.
Just get over it. But this is the height of like Mick Foley's like this super over baby face, man. Because
Mhm.
he's just like fucking everybody loves Mick Foley. Like,
Yeah.
they love this underdog, man, and like this is kind of the start of that for him. Like right after you already had the King of the Ring Hell in the Cell, that infamous moment, and then you have this. Now, me personally, probably one of my highlights of this show is this: you got to see the pay-per-view debut of one of my all-time greats. Well, give me a moment. The Rated R Superstar. Oh, that was fucking terrible. I can't.
Why?
That's
Why?
okay.
Why did you sound like Scooby Doo in the middle of that?
I know. I don't know why.
And you can
I can't
do
do
impressions
Chip.
too.
I But yes.
Now I know Scooby Doo and WWE have done a collab, but
Yeah.
But nonetheless, no, this is the pay-per-view debut of Edge is on this show as well.
Okay.
He's the mystery partner for Sable going up against Mark Merrow and Jacqueline, which is a fun little match, like a fun little tidbit of information. I tell you what, once again, we've talked about this trend all night. We're going to keep on talking about it. Another great opener. D'Lo Brown defending the European title against Val Venus.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
gosh. D'Lo Brown, one of the most criminally underrated workers of the Attitude Era.
Yes.
Unsung hero.
Well,
Next
well,
door
these are-
when I watch him enter the
Oh
ring.
my God. And
Every
Val
time.
Venus, like one of the most, definitive characters, let's say it that way, of the Attitude Era. And I'll never forget, like, when he comes out and he does this, like, little promo in New York, because this is at Madison Square Garden, too, folks. He's like, I came, I saw, and I came again. I was like, oh, damn.
Oh my God.
Homie ain't fucking around, man.
Oh no, he's not.
I can appreciate that, dude.
He was not.
My guy. But that was a great opener, man. Also,
Oh,
you
yeah.
get the rivalry between Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart gets settled on this show, and the first ever Lions Den match.
Oh
Which
yeah,
is really
That was
the
dope.
WWF
that was a dope match.
experimenting with like kind of UFC style matches.
Mhm.
You didn't see that, especially then.
Yeah.
Another highlight for this one, guys. I love the hair versus hair match with X-Pac against Jeff Jarrett, and they shaved Jeff Jarrett's head at the end of the night, and this really kicks off Jeff Jarrett's kind of "don't piss me off" era. as
Oh, yeah.
well
Yeah.
in the WWF. But dude, SummerSlam '98, it had everything from the Attitude Era, in my opinion, and that's why I think it's like I say, it's the definitive show. Hell, you also had the Oddities against Kai and
I was
Tai
gonna
on
say,
this
don't-
Oh, the odd. Don't get by the
Oh,
oddies.
my God.
one of the
Yeah.
best songs ever, man. Come on.
Yeah.
ICP killed it all.
I like that theme song. Everyone
so
loves the
dope.
greatest show. Yeah,
Be down with the clown.
that is so awesome.
They were so dope.
Yeah, dude, SummerSlam '98 was just perfect in every way, in my opinion, and I think it's the perfect way to end this amazing night with you, gentlemen. So real quick, I got to ask you, out of all these SummerSlams, all these incredible moments we've talked about, what would you say is by far like the most iconic, or at least the most memorable moment to you? Maybe not a SummerSlam per se, but what would you say is just that one? When you think of SummerSlam, you try to describe SummerSlams to somebody, what image comes to mind?
You're saying all SummerSlams?
Of all, well, just of the ones we've covered tonight. I
Oh,
would
the
say.
ones? Yeah.
The earlier years, I would say.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I always think of that image of the Bulldog and Brett hugging, Pyro going off in the ring, and just like that. That always has stuck out in my mind. What about you, Dad? 316.
97, just that match with Taker, Brett, Sean being involved, that whole thing, man, that whole thing was just intense. And just the Highway to Hell in general, Undertaker versus Stone Cold. The other stuff back in the day was great, right? Like when I think of early days, I think of Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior, honestly. Often they were always there. Mr. Perfect, always there, right? Like those were the people I just like. Every time I think of old school SummerSlam, that's what I think of. But the most impactful and the one that I can never forget as a kid are those back-to-back ones between 97 and 98. I think that was just that led to what we were going to. I mean, we loved wrestling then, but we know how much everybody loves the Attitude Era and stuff, and it just totally shot the rocket up with that.
Yep,
Yeah.
dude, 110%. What about you,
I mean,
NWO?
Yeah, I mean, my not my whatever. Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart. When Bret Hart beats Perfect and he's standing up on the ropes and he's got the belt and he's got like
he pulls the tights off.
Yeah, he has them like over him and he's just like sitting there winning his first. To me, that's probably one of the, I'm going to give my little flowers to Bret. That was just a good looking moment. I loved it.
2 minutes or 2 hours, 8 minutes.
It took us that long to get there, but we got
that's
there.
Number 2. That's 2 more than I've done in the last 42 years. But yes, that's a fantastic moment. I'll always remember it. Yeah.
Derrick, what about you, buddy? What of these moments we talked about tonight it just sticks out for you?
I say for me, I have to go with the ladder match for Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels.
It's a good one.
For me looking about how the matches and how the storytelling and all that came about. That's the match I want to see. I love all together. It had everything that I wanted in the match.
Yeah, dude, it's a hell of a moment. I couldn't agree with you more, man. These are all great moments. And you know what? Here's the cool thing about everything we've pretty much talked about here for the most part. What is like the underlying theme here we're talking about? It's involving the Intercontinental title, which I feel like the Intercontinental title was the title of SummerSlam, man. That's where you saw the most important IC title matches was on SummerSlam.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree. And also on the early years from where we're talking about now, it was tag team all around heavy the first few years of SummerSlam. I mean, you have all the big tag teams competing against each other, and just showing and showcasing their talents and stuff like that. It was just a great time to have tag teams displaying themselves in the SummerSlam. So
yeah. Well, Derrick, I could not say it better myself. Well, folks, the cool thing is we've just begun because there's so many great more moments.
Almost begun.
So many great SummerSlam moments. We're going to get into them next week as we pick up part 2. We're going to start off talking about 1999 SummerSlam. And we'll go all the way through the early 2000s. But as always, when we come to the end here at Learning the Ropes, we get one last plug-a-palooza in. And, Dad 316 is your first time on Learning the Ropes. I'm going to start with you, sir. Tell all the good people where they can find you, my friend.
Dude, I mean, they can find me everywhere. I just never remember my screen names anymore. So I know I got Dad 316, Dad _316 over on TikTok. That's where you're going to see me the most. The Dad 316 on Instagram. That one I'm being a lot more involved. The one that I've really started to really get on because I get to interact with not just the community and stuff, but with my the other creators more often is Twitter. You can find me a lot more often on Twitter now under the same thing, the Dad 316, I believe it is. But yeah, I'm somewhere, everywhere. If you can find my screen name, Linktree's always in my TikTok if you need it.
There you go. All right, MWO, my friend, tell us where we can find you, my friend.
If you want to just find me, TikTok, Instagram, right here at My Wrestling Opinion. You can check it out. I'm the dude of Wrestle Talk, and I love to duet videos. So if you like watching people duet videos, check me out. And then I got a podcast, Two Dudes with Attitudes, a wrestling podcast. You can literally catch us on Flipping Everything. We are blowing up right now on YouTube, finally. Twitch, we're still kind of struggling, but we are literally on everything. Check us out. We're fun, man. We're fun. We do weekly shows. We talk about WWE and AEW. We break them into 2 shows. And, yeah, man, we give our opinions to fun skits with my man, Shooting Star Press, the most handsome ginger to ever grace God's green earth.
Since Lash LaRue himself.
I agree. No arguments here.
Man. And Derrick, tell us where we can find you, my good friend.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok under Devastator _Derrick78. And I also have a page on YouTube called Derrick's Wrestling Toys and Tees, where I express my love for wrestling by t-shirts and figures as well. Kind of an extension of my TikTok page. So if you're into that, just look me up on those 3.
There you go.
Hey, XLJ, real quick, since my wrestling opinion did it, I got to throw it out there. Also, you can find us at Fine Tuned Wrestling on TikTok.
I was waiting
One
for
word.
Yeah, Fine Tuned Wrestling.
Morning wrestling show, Monday through Wednesday. You don't know what the heck's going to happen on that show. Find us over on Morning Mayhem, Fine Tuned Wrestling, all one word. We'd love to see you guys there.
And in the immortal words of Vince McMahon on both of your guys' shows, all of your guys' shows, that's some good shit, pal. Just saying. Check it out. You won't regret it.
Yes.
Well, and
if
as
he,
we mentioned,
he didn't mention it, I was going to mention it. So,
yes, I was like, come on, we gotta get that plug in. You're good, brother. It's like you're just like me. You're infatuated thinking about the gregness that was Bret Hart through this.
That's what it was. There was so much Bret talk today. I didn't know what to do with myself. I never get this much time to talk about Bret.
I know, right? I know. Well, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, this week on Cold TV, we got a loaded week. You can catch replays of Pro Wrestling 60 as well as our shows, The Hunt and I'm Your Huckleberry. And stay tuned. We got this incredible series coming for our good friend, the Light Skinned Gaijin. It's going to be a 3-part series talking about the history of Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix, which is getting ready to kick off this weekend. And, of course, you can tune in this upcoming Monday for a brand new episode of Pro Wrestling 60. And don't forget to check in with us next Thursday for a brand new Learning the Ropes, where we go deeper on SummerSlam, and we're going to talk SummerSlams 99 all the way up to the end of 2000. Now what?
Now, I laughed because I saw Dad 316's hesitation when you said go deeper.
I
laughed because we both tried to not laugh at that. And then I saw his face. And I was like, he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
And,
we're going real deep there.
On that note, folks.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's Learn the Ropes. Thank you all so much, Dad316, MWO, Derrick, and, of course, Hambone. But like we say, folks, we will be back here next week as we are going to talk more SummerSlam to get you ready for the biggest party of the summer. Mr. B-Roll, you want to play us out, my friend?
Later, Gators.